Well, hello, everybody. Ren Carothers here for your Future Stars forecast on this 2-year-old Tuesday. We are a month out from the Breeders' Cup World Championships kicking off November 1st with Future Stars Friday, of course. So what better time to take a look back at some of the 2-year-olds who have made some noise already, getting their tickets punched to the Breeders' Cup, and others we're going to be looking forward to see if they can get birth into the World Championships. I've got two of the best analysts in the world joining me today. I'll introduce the first one. You're going to think I'm biased. I'm not. You know him. You love him, hopefully, because I do. And you've actually been seeing him on Breeders, or on FanDuel rather, which was TVG when those lights first went on air. And I am talking about Matt Carothers. Hello.
Thank you for having me, Ren.
Okay.
I appreciate it. I do. I'm definitely one of the oldest analysts.
Well,
I know that for sure.
Well, thankfully, you're aging like fine wine. So I think you're much more attractive since that first day on TVG.
Okay.
But, okay, we won't get into that. We'll leave the rest of that to our own personal conversation. But also joining me, I absolutely love her content. She's on point. She's an owner. She's a breeder. She's an award winner. And the presentation that she gives, not just with the horses there across the pond, the European racing, the world racing, she knows our own domestic horses here as well, because she stays on top of it all. And I mean Jess Stafford, who you've been working with a bit there on FanDuel.
Yeah, hi, Jess.
Hi, guys. I feel bad that I'm breaking up a date. It felt quite romantic a second.
Real, Jess.
I know. I've been a third wheel many a time in my life, but hopefully we can enjoy it. And I love chatting horses, but at this time of the year, when we've got a month to go, I think, especially for you, Ren, when you've been building this all up all year, this is when it's getting really, really good. And now I feel like we really do know who's going to be coming to Del Mar in a month's time. And hopefully I can give you a little bit more insight into what Europeans are going to be making their way over to.
Well, that's exactly the point. People often talk about how 2-year-old racing, which I absolutely love, because if you know what you're looking at, if you're playing the horses, there is a tremendous opportunity to get big prices, because if you can sort of suss out how they're going to mature and hopefully peak come the Breeders' Cup itself, then yeah, there's going to be a lot of opportunity, pure mutually speaking. But then, of course, you have your fans of the horses themselves who just kind of, they feel unfamiliar with them. But I feel like if you can introduce them in a way where you're like, well, hey, this horse is a half sibling to a horse you already love, or, a daughter or a son of a horse that you already love, it kind of helps them have a vested interest in how that horse then does going forward. So this is why I was so excited about today's show, to have both of you with your unique ways in which you look at the horses, but then how it all comes to the same point in giving our audience something to look forward to, whether they're betting the horses or whether they just want to be a fan.
Yeah, hey, so I'm here to take notes and learn. I mean, she's going to help me in a month. And doing this show, I really feel like the Breeders' Cup is right around the corner. I really didn't feel that until kind of getting ready for this show yesterday. So now I feel that kind of, the juices are flowing a little bit. And I'm definitely going to take notes on what Jess has to say from a European standpoint. Because obviously those horses will be well represented.
Yes, I'll take notes from her on anything, because again, she stays on top of it, and I love that, because hey, I pride myself on being a petty geek, but respect for somebody that I can see appreciates that as well, because not
you've got to I think it's a nice look for me. Pedigrees is a real passion. It's something that I learn. I think this game is a learning game. You never know everything. You're always learning every day. Every day is a school day, and I would never think that I would know it all, but that's why I obsess over it, because I want to learn. I want to know more. And that's why it's great to be all part of it, kind of a unique family, and that we all kind of are learning off each other every day. But I've got to say that the hype for the Breeders' Cup this side of the world is pretty fierce at the moment. Obviously, we've got City of Troy as this major talking point. The hype train is in full steam and it's steam ahead. And that's great for the Breeders' Cup. It's great for the Classic. You know, that's the race, that's the pinnacle. Obviously, Future Stars Friday is where it's going to kick it all off, and it's going to make it feel like we're here for something a little bit special that we don't know whether he'll be able to pull it off. But I think the fact that we have a horse that seems to be the best of what we can offer just goes to show why the Breeders' Cup can be really, really special, and potentially could be a day or a race, 2 days for the generations.
Oh, I know. I'm so, before we talk about the 2-year-olds, then yeah, let's just mention City of Troy real quick, because I was going to be sure to at least acknowledge the fact that he's going to be trying to make history there. But, you know, you were at the work that he put forth, and that was on all weather, I know, but I think the main thing that they were looking for is to see how he's going to handle some sort of kickback hitting him or whatnot.
Yeah, it was a funny one. I think anyone who wants to tell you the back and forward story of Southall Racecourse, Southall Racecourse will say, well, this is silly. There is no dirt-like surface here. The fiber sand that was there was removed a good few years ago. It's now to Peter. It doesn't have kickback. It really doesn't.
Okay.
You know, Ryan Moore has said that you won't get the feeling of being in a race in the dirt like they will do in Del Mar. I think, you know, to be traveling over to a track like that, which they have done before with the likes of Giants Causeway and Galileo, to give him the experience the day out, to use the American gates, which probably went a little bit under the radar. They have at Ballydoyle their own American gates that they brought over from Ballydoyle to the track, so he could be in there, installed in there, and get out quickly. He seemed to pass all that with flying colors. But at the end of the day, he was galloping against some horses that were rated at least like 30 pounds inferior. They're not horses that you would be overly excited by. He had to do what he did. But Ryan Moore, again, sometimes I'm a bit like, well, is this all part of the hype because we want to build it up so much? But Aidan O'Brien and Ryan Moore, like, that's the best he's ever worked. It's the best he's ever looked. It's so exciting. You know, he's ticking every box that I would want. And don't forget, they have tried this in the past.
Yeah.
They have seen how close that they can get, but for whatever reason, and I don't know if it's because of the breeding, and this is where our breeding interest gets so interesting, because he's, of course, the son of Justify out of a Galileo mare. How important it will be for the breed if he is to win, that they want him to have the profile as the best that they've ever had, or, you know, it just helps just to give that sense of excitement as we lead up to it. We shall see. The proof will be in the pudding. I think he's always been a horse that kind of hasn't wowed me as much as the likes of Frankel did. No way. But if he does do what they say he can do come Del Mar, then, you know, he has to be up there with the horse of what they say a lifetime, and the best that Aidan says he's ever trained.
No, I think it's really exciting.
Not a great group that he'll be facing.
Right. I mean,
not a great group. There's no gun runners. There's no curling.
Giants Causeway had to go against his now.
Right. We
Yeah.
are horses like that. I've never thought of Aidan O'Brien and Ryan Moore as big hype guys. But I've never thought of them as big.
Ryan isn't. Have you
up.
seen my interviews? Have you seen me trying to interview Ryan? He'll be like walking, and there'll be cameras over here. Like, it's hard. He doesn't hide.
I will tell you. Well, I will tell you, I just watching how he moves beautifully. The way he flicks those legs so straight and gorgeous. And somebody whose opinion I respect profoundly is a Hall of Fame rider in Gary Stevens. And he was just so impressed by the work. He made a point to say he looks like a machine. He is very excited about this horse. So it is, the hype is real. Let's just put it that way. I feel the hype is real, and it's going to be very exciting. And I do know that a lot of people have talked about, being out of a Galileo mare. I mean, I would look at it this way. How many opportunities have we seen horses run at grade 1 level out of Galileo mares when, generally speaking, the best of them are running over in Europe on the turf? We've seen Lee in the past. I know he was for Samurai, who's by Giants Causeway, but still, Lee was very surface flexible. He was second in our Breeders' Cup Dirt Mile. He had
multiple
won the
Grade
Dawn.
1 winner, I think, wasn't he?
He was. Well, I mean, he set a new track record in the Dawn. As far as multiple grade 1, I cannot recall. But
so.
and then there's also that really nice filly who's currently running, Leslie's Rose, on the dirt, and she's out of a Galileo mare. And again, I mean, he's by Justify, and Justify, his get seemed to just find what they need, whatever the surface they happen to be on. So we'll see. It's very exciting. But City of Troy, he's 3. So let's kick it back to 2-year-olds. Right?
Certainly. And we could talk about it all day.
I
And like, there's
know.
so many angles that I am fascinated by, you know, maybe even in the trip, you know, the likes of, was it Nick Sco? Nick Sco was the last winner at Del Mar, but hadn't he won a Breeders' Cup Mile, whenever it was, the year or so before? Because the speed at Del Mar, you need to prove yourself on. And he's been winning over a bit of a distance. So that's another angle. But look, as I said, we could go into this for hours and hours, and that's what's making this Breeders' Cup and the Classic a good race, which I think it might just need after maybe, you know, struggling to really find that like really real kick and we'll get the juices flowing since, you know, maybe since Flightline, which was only a few years ago, but still it's good for the race.
No, he's definitely a marquee horse, undoubtedly, and we appreciate the sportingness of bringing him over. Let's go here. We're going to start things off. We have 5 races, championship races. We're going to talk about and a plethora of horses. We've already had a lot of winning your ends. We're going to kick things off with the Juvenile Turf Sprint. It's a $1 million contest. The horses are going to be going 5 furlongs there on the grass. The Norfolk Stakes, this was back on June 20th at Royal Ascot. The winner there was Shareholder. I actually had Carl Burke on this show following that win. You can check all these prior interviews out, by the way, everybody, because it turns out as I'm going through these horses, I was like, yeah, I interviewed that person. I interviewed them. You can go back and check them out at breederscup.com or Breeders' Cup YouTube rather. And you just go ahead and hit the live tab and you'll see all the old live shows. Now, I actually have this replay. I'll mute it and you guys can talk over it and give your impressions, because Shareholder, his last race, not great. But let me back it up.
What I would say, this race, and I remember I was lucky enough obviously to be there for FanDuel, and I had him as my selection. That's because I think that this horse was bred to be all speed early on in the season. He's a son of Not This Time. He came from the Breeze Up sales, so he was drilled, he was gunned to know what he was doing early days.
Yeah.
And when he won first time out, and you'll spot he's the red cap furthest from the picture, just following the horse in blue and white. And he was still raw and babyish. I think he just got away with how, you know, quick he was. I think he's still, you know, he's got so many gears, and he just came into this race easy breezy. You see James Doyle still trying to hold him together, and then he's able to kick away. And as you know, as I said, he's all about speed. And what they did after this race is that they brought him to the Prix Morny over 6 furlongs. And James Doyle got off and said, the horse has got too much speed for a 6 furlongs. But, you know, let's think about this race in general. The Norfolk Stakes has always been a great, great race, a good race to pinpoint, not just the horses that have won, but the ones that are in behind. Arizona Blaze was in 3rd, very strong level of form. Whistle Jacket was in 4th.
Yes.
He went on to win the Prix Morny. But the horse that I think might just be the one that's going to edge it for the interest of the Breeders' Cup Juvenile Tough Sprint is Asterius, who was 5th in that race. When he's got this, he's the same ownership. But I just think the race is so strong. Shareholder won that day. He wasn't on the right trip the next day, but I would forgive him for that. And I think if they do send him out, which you might have heard from Carl, I think it sounds like they no reason why they shouldn't do. And don't forget, last year's second in the Breeders' Cup Tough Sprint to Big Air's Valiant Force had won the Norfolk Stakes last year. So I think you've got to go for it. He's got the speed, and they haven't over-raced him this year.
That's the thing. I mean, if you've got birth and if your horse is sound, I think you go for it, right? Because you never know what's going to be your day. And as you're talking about that speed, Matt, talk about the speed there at Del Mar on that turf course.
Well, I mean, the turf course is going to be in great shape, and the rainy time of year in Southern California doesn't come. I mean, it's possible that it rains in early November, but it's very doubtful. Rainy season is until mid-December. So by the time you hit November 1st, it really hasn't rained in Southern California since March. I mean, it doesn't rain, so it won't be that warm, but it won't be. I mean, the turf course will be in great shape. It'll be in great condition, obviously. After the Santa Anita meeting in September concludes and they go to Del Mar. So, yeah, you're going to have a fast turf course, I would think. for that
I
event.
can tell you something. I can tell you something for free. Whatever warmth it is, it's going to be a hell of a lot warmer than what we have right now. So I think these horses might have a little shock. Like the climate change is
some
crazy.
ocean breeze. You might have some ocean breeze at Del Mar.
Oh.
So you're telling me that Shareholder is a horse to bet because he stunk in his last start, but I should bet him based on a couple starts back, and so I might get a price because he was so bad in his last start to Whistle Jacket. Is that fair?
Yeah, I wouldn't be put off that run. And what I would tell you is that there is no crack 2-year-old sprinter from the UK or Ireland or even Europe that's coming in with the same reputation or the same CV so far like Big Evs did last year. We just don't have that real out and out.
He went against older before the Breeders' Cup.
He did, and there isn't a horse for me that's kind of showed themselves what they could do or even try against olders. I think it's a much more open Breeders' Cup Juvenile Turf from our lineup of horses. So I think if you get a price on Shareholder based on that run last time, I'd be happy to go with him. But I do think that. And it'd be interesting to see how the market shape up. As I said, Asterius, and I know Ren, you've got it. We can have a look at him at some point, but that horse might be the one that has been might go under the radar because he wasn't such an obvious horse early on. You know, he was fifth behind Shareholder early days, and he hasn't been tried in Group 1 company. Whereas when you want to look at all the Group 1 races, you think the best horses are in that. But I think Asterius might be just slowly biding his time and getting there. And this last performance when he won the Flying Childers, I think these two horses that were first and second would be the ones that I'm most excited about. You've got near side Asterius. He gave really good gate speed. He was very straight all the way through. And this is the race that Big Evs actually won last year en route to the Breeders' Cup. And on just to the left of him, you might recognize the silks there. Those are the silks of Big Evs. That's RP Racing, who own Big Mojo. And those two horses come first and second. And yes, it's a Group 2, but I really like both of their attitudes. They're so streetwise. And, you know, as I said, Shareholder's got a lot of speed, but he still maybe lacks the experience, whereas these horses, they know how to be tough and gutsy. They know how to battle. And I'd say the connections of Big Mojo would be happy to go for a rematch with Asterius because they know that their horse has got the fight in him. And it was just a neck that separated them last time.
Well, it's very exciting. And this is one of those things. Obviously the pace dynamic, how it's going to set up, will be something you really have to take note of. Going back now, let's talk about Whistle Jacket. So you won the Group 1 Prix win and you're in for the Breeders' Cup Juvenile Turf Sprint. But last out just this past weekend, he finished second. He was beaten 4 lengths by Shadow of Light in the Group 1 Juddbot Middle Park at Newmarket. Go ahead and I'll show the Prix but you can give your impressions of how the other race came out as well.
Yeah, the Prix always a brilliant race. Van Dijk won it last year. It's just it's a height of the summer. It's normally quickish ground, but Deauville, where it's staged, actually had a lot of rain 2 days before, so it was actually on the slower side. Again, Whistle Jacket, who's a full brother to Little Big Bear. He doesn't have as many quirks as that horse, but he's he's a very solid type. Near side in the Peter Brandt green, 2-tone green silks. I thought this was a smashing performance. I really like what he did that day. And I think he got a perfect run in through the race, really. Having that near rail really helps him. You can see the red hat of Shareholder, who's just behind. He doesn't stay the 6. You know, James Dorr, as I said, came off and said that he just has too much speed. But the horse I want you to keep an eye on is on the far side, got the Australian noseband on of Rashabar with the white hat and the blue arms. Yes. This is a son of Tamayuz. I fell in love with him in the paddock beforehand. He is one of the best looking horses I've seen all year, and he was so unlucky. Look at him. He runs. Yes. I think he's definitely got his head in front at this stage. He was unlucky, I think, to be on the wrong side of the track. He's called Rashabar, and he is the horse, I think, if they do take their chances and head to the Breeders' Cup, which the trainer Brian Meehan is happy to do, then he'll be the one that I'm really interested in. I just think if you love a good looking horse, I love a horse that's got presence about them. And also, how can you not love a horse, Matt? You're like this, that wins a Coventry Stakes at Royal Ascot at 80-1.
Yes.
That is one of the biggest prices we've had all year. And he was a huge price. And it was a real surprise. But what he did when he was second in the pre-morning to Whistlejacket at 12-1, people still didn't believe he was like a genuine Royal Ascot winner. He went and showed that, yes, he is as good as the others. And this was no fluke. So Coventry Stakes form was tested, and he's gone and shown that there was nothing wrong with that. And yeah, look, he came into that race that day a maiden. He'd ran a couple of times, and he'd ran okay, but not enough to be a Royal Ascot horse. Really, well, the betting suggested that anyway. He was ridden by young Billy Loughnane, who's one of the jockeys to follow at present. He's one of the rising stars in the weighing room, and not too dissimilar to Shareholder, who's on that far side again. They use the Australian noseband at Brian Meehan's yard. And he's a horse that can stay at the front. He can come from slightly off the pace, but he just keeps going. And I think for those reasons, he would be the one that I'm the most excited about, because I still think that he's going to be overpriced, because I don't think he's seen as a genuine, not a genuine Group 1 horse. And we also haven't seen him since the pre-morning. So
and you
we'll
think
see how that goes.
And you're anticipating him, if he comes, he'd stretch out for the juvenile turf.
I would say so. I mean, this was a 6. I mean, I haven't had any confirmation, but it looks like, it's such a speed-based turf race, isn't it? That potentially could be. He had him behind him that day, Al Qudra, who's went on and was placed recently behind New Century.
In the summer,
and the summer stakes. He also, he's had a lot of good form behind him of horses that have gone on and proved a little bit further. His breeding, he's by Tamayuz. He's by Holy Roman Emperor, I should say, not Tamayuz. Out of a Camelot mare. So he's bred to potentially have a little bit more in him. His dam is a half sister to a 1 mile 6 furlong horse. So I would say potentially that they would lean to that way, but I haven't got that confirmed yet.
It sounds like.
Go ahead, Ren.
I was just going to say, well, having seen him in person, does he look shorter coupled like a sprinter, or does he look like, okay?
No, he's a big size, chunky looking horse. He's got legs, he's got presence, but he looks like a 3-year-old, not a 2-year-old. And I was just like, whoa, what is this? And yeah, we loved him. Myself and my other half, we were just like, and I was like trying to get I was in Deauville. It's so difficult to bet on the machines there, and I was like couldn't work it out with the the translation, so I didn't get time to put my bet on. But he had my heart money, and he came good to come second. But I think he was just unlucky to be on the wrong side of the track. So a lot of love for him.
Well, I love getting these under the radar horses who necessarily didn't win the Win and You're In. Now, as far as Whistlejacket running second there to Shadow of Light, what have you heard from that? The ground was soft that day, right? Do you think that had anything?
The ground
had anything to play in that?
Yeah,
finish?
I mean, the ground was heavy. They said, and I would imagine that they were probably ultimately disappointed to be beaten so far by Shadow of Light, who definitely didn't come into it in the same manner of, the form level. Aidan O'Brien, I have a quote from him. He says, Whistlejacket has run a decent race, but Ryan said he thought he could have done with a stronger pace. He was a bit slow out of the gates and took a lead, whereas he likes things his own way, which, that I think that's a real interesting line if he is going to head to the Breeders' Cup, which he definitely was going to after the morning, because he likes to get out, he likes to be in front, he likes to make he likes a strong pace, tick, tick, tick for Del Mar.
Well, we'll be very interested to see what happens going forward. I actually had Peter Brandt on this show a couple of weeks ago. Again, you all can go check that out if you go to that live tab on Breeders' Cup's YouTube page.
You've gotten bigger guests than us? Wow, that's good. Wow,
you guys it's all comparable. Impressive. It's all comparable. Nobody's higher than
Jess and I combined equal Peter Brandt, I think. Right?
I say you guys are right there. We're all created equal, okay? Now, we've got this insane Win and You're In weekend. We have 20 Win and You're Ins for the Breeders' Cup. across both days. One of the 2-year-old win in your in races for the juvenile turf sprint is the Futurity at Belmont at the Big A. Now that is going to go off as race 5 on Friday's card. And I find it very interesting. I just want to touch upon this briefly because it's 2:25 and we've got till 3 o'clock for pickup for the child. So here is what I find interesting.
You guys are on your own at 3 Eastern.
Todd Pletcher has 2 horses entered in this race. One of them happens to be Menti, that is the full brother to last year's Breeders' Cup juvenile champion and Eclipse champion 2-year-old Fierceness. And what was interesting also regarding Menti, so on debut, he sets a record. Now that's on dirt. Then he was not in action for a while, and it was because he was sick. We find out later that he was starting to develop in his 2 front feet because he had gotten punctured by something, laminitis, but they caught it quickly and they were able to heal him up and get him back to the races fit and happy. Unfortunately, however, in the Hopeful, which was the first race back, he finished 6th, being 12 3/4 lengths. So now we're going to move to the turf and we're going to cut back because the Hopeful 7 furlongs for the Futurity. What do you make of it?
Ren, you're kind of freezing up every once in a while, but it's obviously no.
I froze up. I'm sorry.
Yeah, it's happened every once in a while. It's all right. I think you're asking me about Menti. Here's the thing. I don't like it. I mean, we both know Mike Rapoli very well, and how many great turf horses does Mike have? Crickets, right? I mean, he wants a Derby horse. He wants to win the juvenile. I mean, yeah, he's had a couple. He's had a couple, right? But I mean, basically, he wants the Derby, he wants the Travers, he wants the Belmont, he wants those races. I think I don't want to say desperation, but I think he was that bad in the Hopeful that, oh my God, he has some turf pedigree. Let's go grass. So I don't really like it. I mean, I'm not saying he's not going to run well. He's a talented racehorse. You already went to the pedigree. Real quickly, the horse to look at in the race, I'm out of here. I was at Kentucky Downs for this horse's last start for Jeff Hiles, low-profile trainer. You will get a price. This horse showed pace in the juvenile mile. The pace was ridiculous. Nobody could handle that kind of pace. So the race kind of fell apart. It was won by, I think, Tistastic and Asmussen from well off the pace. I love the win a couple starts back at Ellis. This horse is going to get a good trip on the turn back coming out of those really tough type of mile endurance type race at Kentucky Downs. That's the price horse in the race. I'm out of here. I'm against Menti.
I'm out of here. Okay.
I'm out of here.
You got it.
I'm out of here.
Otter here is what it is.
Oh, it's Otter here. You're right. I'm Otter here.
I'm
My
Otter
favorite animal
here.
as a child, the otter. I'm Otter here. Okay.
No. I'm Otter here. Owned by Evan Trummer, father of Drew Trummer.
That's right. Yeah, right.
With whom
we all
we
know
used
each
to
other in
work.
racing. Yes.
Out of interest,
so,
how many juveniles have there been that have gone from dirt to turf and won a Breeders' Cup? Like, does that happen that often? Is it because it feels quite early to test it?
Yes. I can't think of any off the top of my head. I can't think of any. The only I can think of is
Johannesburg went from turf to winning our juvenile on dirt.
Right.
And he was dual champion 2-year-old, but that's the only thing I can think of off the top of my head. Yeah. Yes, very special. Are you kidding me? Yeah. And we're seeing that just absolute ability continue on through the scion of his progeny. So let's go ahead now and move to the juvenile. Let me see here. I'm going to go back to my rundown. Oh, and I should also mention, it's not an official win in your in, but we're going to also keep our eyes on. We don't have entry yet for it, but the Indian Summer, which is going to be October 6th at Keeneland. Now, moving on to the John Deere. I want to get the sponsors in. The John Deere Juvenile Fillies Turf, $1 million, 1 mile. And some of these horses, by the way, because, for example, with the horses that won the Natalma and the Summer, that was a 1-turn mile at Woodbine. So they're going to 2 turns when they go to Del Mar. But yeah, going back to the win in your ins. So the William Hill Prestige Stakes, that was August 24th at Goodwood. And Shota was your winner there for Team Valor and Gary Barber, trained by David Lucknane and ridden by Billy. And this horse, the record is 2 wins from 4 starts. he finished 6th in the Group 2 Betfred Mayhill Stakes at Doncaster. She. I think I've got the replay. Where is it? I've got so much information, so many replays keyed up. I just want to make sure I've got it here. Okay, I've got it.
She's a real triumph for buying under the radar kind of horses. David Lockman, the trainer, bought her for 5,000 guineas. She came in a breeze up sale. Our breeze up sales, it was really patchy this year. A lot of horses just got missed, didn't get sold. So when she won first time out, that was a surprise. Then she was second at 66-1 in a listed race. And then I think that maybe she was bought in by Team Valor and Gary Barber before she won this Prestige Stakes. But look at that weather. I mean, this was on the 24th of August. This just goes to show what our summer was like.
Yeah.
We didn't have one. This race was completely cut up. There were so many non-runners. There was 4 non-runners, I think there was. So with all due respect to Anshoda, I wouldn't say that this was the strongest of races. And I do think she really appreciated the ground, and Bilot and I gave her a good ride, and it was a good opportunity, well found by the trainer. She buy-ins, of course. She just clearly liked the going, but then she was well beaten next time out at Doncaster in the Mayhill Stakes, where she was up in class, but she was also outclassed as well. I suppose the good thing about her is that she does show plenty of guts, and it was a tough performance, but I can't see she's going to get conditions like that come Del Mar time, even if you tell me that it gets kind of cold there, but I don't think you're going to get the conditions like this. But all the same, I don't know how long the Prestige Stakes has been in the Breeders' Cup when you're in Challenge Series. It's a good race because it's over the 7 furlongs, and we don't have that many group races for 2-year-old fillies. It's quite specific, quite niche. So it's a good race to have, but because of our weather, it actually didn't turn out to be the best of the races that we would be able to show you for a stepping stone for the Breeders' Cup.
Well, what did you think of the Natalma Stakes at Woodbine?
The Natalma Stakes at Woodbine. I'll go to Matt first, and then I'll get his thoughts.
All right, let's see here. So
it wasn't very fast. It wasn't the quickest race in the world.
I'm going to the wrong one.
And One More Time, who I thought had a perfect trip in the race. I mean, it was a close finish. It was an exciting race.
Going to the wrong one.
It's an important race. It's a grade 1, but I think you're gonna roll the race now. I mean, she sat in second in the early part of this race, and I think she sat behind a bomb too. So it might have been the 12 who she was behind early on. The red, it was someone who was like 45, 48-1. She's sitting behind in this race. So the pace is not very quick. You're sitting in second, give credit for having that tactical speed, but you're sitting behind a Nitrogen. I'm sorry, 41-1 is who you're sitting behind.
Hey, so you be nice to Nitrogen.
I know.
And you be nice, and Vixen. They're DJ stable.
I know. I'm me. I'm Mr. Nice. I'm nice to everyone.
Nitrogen. They ran great.
They did run well.
It was a Mark Cassie trifecta.
Yeah. No. We'll get to the summer.
And the 5th.
I mean, I might not be here, but we'll get to the summer at some point. In the summer, they went, let me off the top of my head, they went 32-3. I know these are fillies. They basically went 33-4. They went 33-99/100. So we can round up 100th of a second. So they went 7 lengths slower in this race. The buyer was low. The final time wasn't very quick. I mean, hey, she showed some gameness. You like the fact that she wins a close race that we'll get to. I mean, Jess, you like the fact that she shows some professionalism. She shows the ability to sit. I like her demeanor and I like her professionalism. I just don't think she's fast enough. I mean, that's the problem. I don't think physically she's good enough to be a factor in the juvenile fillies turf, even though she has the right mind.
I think, well, I'll just say this really quickly.
This is a game win.
I think it's going to be very hard. If they bring Lake Victoria over, I think it's going to be very hard for anybody else who enters that gate.
Yeah. If someone beats her, it's not going to be her.
Yeah, look, this was the day that Mountain Breeze, you caught me on Natal mistakes because I knew that it was the grade 1 fillies at Woodbine, but I forgot its name. I'm so sorry.
No
But
worries.
the Mountain Breeze that day went off really short price. She was I had like even money, whatever. She'd been rock solid all season. She is a close relation to Pinatubo, and it was there was something wrong. She came from a wide stall, so I don't know whether that's what you blame it on or whatever. But talking about Lake Victoria, if Mountain Breeze gets so far beaten in a race like that, and the form with Mountain Breeze and Lake Victoria is very closely tied. Lake Victoria beat her a couple of lengths the race beforehand, the Sweet Solera Stakes. So either you don't take that form at face value and Mountain Breeze didn't run her race and there was something amiss. I haven't got a quote or a follow-up from Charlie Appleby on that. Or, our fillies aren't as good because Mountain Breeze couldn't live up to what you had on offer from the grade 1 perspective. But all I would say is that Lake Victoria has improved from race to race. They have been so interesting the way that they've campaigned her. They stepped her up to 7, they brought her back to 6, and she's just getting better and better. So I would like to think that the Mountain Breeze form shouldn't be putting a knock to Lake Victoria's possibilities if, as you say, if they do take the chance with her over at Del Mar.
I will say and one more time, that was her first time, the winner of the Natalma. That was her first time actually getting on grass. They tried to get her on the start prior at Saratoga and it came off. She won anyway there in the mud. And she is by Omaha Beach out of a Blame Mare. I mentioned this before in another podcast, but people forget with Blame, he is from the family that gave us Sadler's Wells and gave us Nurave. So Blame, there's a reason why he's been so flexible as a stallion, even though he himself was a classic winner.
He's an arch, right? He's an arch.
So you've got that top. Yes.
But I don't want to be. And the filly ran great. I mean, she ran great. I really like her. She's a grade 1 winner. I do. I mean, between horses like that late, that was an impressive.
It was a DJ sandwich. It's a Live Oak Plantation sandwich between 2 DJ runners. But yeah, I Lake Victoria punched her ticket rather, winning the Moyglare Stakes September 15th at the Curro. But I figured it was more prudent to show the most recent race. She just won the Group 1 Cheveley Park, which I thankfully just set me straight because I always thought it was Cheveley. We're over here in America pronouncing
you silly American
wrong. I
know that's okay. The things that I can say sometimes and I'm just like, I don't know. Who knows who's right? Tomato. We've been doing this for years.
But this is Lake Victoria. This is the buzz horse, everybody, for the juvenile fillies turf, undoubtedly.
Yeah, and look, she beat a horse that I have such a soft spot in, Babouche. She was 4th that day, and Babouche actually set a really solid standard. She had beaten Whistle Jacket when she ran against the boys the time before. So Babouche is a good horse. She's in the Juddmonte Silks, the pink and the green. But yeah, look at Lake Victoria. She's out on her own. She's a daughter of Frankel. She's out of Quiet Reflection, who herself was an absolute she was a wonderful horse. She was really hardy sort, but she was a sprinter. So Frankel's punching a bit of stamina, and Frankel could do anything. He had a Group 1 winner over a sprinting trip the same day as he has, a mile and a half winners. So it doesn't matter what you throw at him, he delivers. But I just love her attitude as they grouped up here. This is where she wanted to fight. She was like, you think you can live with me? I'll show you what I can do. And this was it. And it gives you goosebumps. She's got a kind of high knee action a little bit, holds her head up. I think she's still learning. She got her ears pricked there. She beats a horse Daylight in behind who had run in the Pre-Morny the time before. But look, they were extremely happy with her. Look, we'd all love to see her come to the Breeders' Cup, and don't forget
Don't break my heart.
I know. I remember breaking everyone's heart the year that they decided that they weren't going to send an Abel back for a second try at the Breeders' Cup, and I remember I think I told you, Matt, on the channel when I was reporting a bit from the UK, and you were like, "What?
Yeah.
Why would she come back? I was like, they don't think
Oh
that
my
she needs
God.
to. But this is a slightly
Yeah.
different. They had Content come over last year, and she's turned into this brilliant filly as a 3-year-old. Like, they're not scared to bring over some of their best horses. But there's a big race, the Fillies Mile. It's a Group 1 race at Newmarket, come the middle of October, and supposedly Ryan said, come back for the Fillies Mile. And Aidan was quoted to say, I don't know whether you could go from 7 back up to 6 and then back up to a mile. We'll see. It'll be dependent on whatever the lads really want to do. And that line is the most important, because I know, because I interview him every time I see him at the races, Michael Tober loves Del Mar more than anyone else I meet at the races. He is singing and dancing about how wonderful Del Mar is. So if he can bring as many over as he can, he may as well do.
The only thing
Okay.
I'll say before we move on, Ren, about Lake Victoria is this. There's 2 things that I'll add to it. I love the fact she mentioned this towards the end of that race. I love the fact she likes to crush her opposition. I think she has,
you can see that.
I think she has that mentality. She doesn't win close races. If you look, some great horses, they still win close race. They get a little lazy late. They lose their focus. They win on talent. She wants to dominate. She wants to win by open lengths. She wants to embarrass you. I love that quality about her. And then the other quality I like about her is just we were on the air for her win. I think her third win is that she's already shown versatility in 4 starts. She has that speed, which obviously play well at Del Mar. She went on the front end, and then when we saw her, she was dead last early on. I mean, she can adjust too. So she's not just one dimensional. I love the ability she has to want her instincts to want to devastate her competition, and I love the versatility that she has, that she can adjust to any type of pace scenario and come from off the pace, be mid pack, or go to the lead for that matter.
Yeah, no, for sure. And I mean, I do have other, just so we can because we're what time is it now? 2:41. I will give honorable mention, Celandine, thanks to Jess Stafford, talking about the Lowther Stakes winner. That was back on August 22nd at York. That's a horse you're going to want to go check out replays on. We got to give honorable mention to the Jessamine Stakes. That's coming up October 4th. Race 8 at Keeneland. This is a win and you're in for the Breeders' Cup Juvenile Fillies Turf. Mayday Ready, I think, is an interesting horse. Tap it at a Nemeralia, and she's by More Than Ready, the dam. And this horse was actually bred by Whitebirch Farm. That is Peter Brandt, ridden by Frankie Dettori, 2 for 2. Won the Juvenile Filly Stakes at Kentucky Downs. Nemeralia, the mother, was 3rd, just beaten 3/4 of a length back in the 2015 Breeders' Cup Juvenile Fillies Turf behind Catch a Glimpse and Alice Springs. And that was off a runner-up performance on the dirt in the Frizette. And Dettori actually rode the mom a few times too, not in those races, but over across the pond. So that's interesting. And then Totally Justified. Let's not forget both filly races, the Juvenile Fillies Turf and the Juvenile Fillies, were won by daughters of Justify last year. Totally Justify by Justify out of Outstanding by Galileo. This makes her a half-sister to Master of Foxhounds and the dam herself. Full sister to Magician, turf champion, Breeders' Cup turf champion, Magician. And she won first time getting on the turf. She had those 2 dirt starts and then gets on the dirt or gets on the turf and she wins. I think there's upside to that.
And Manny Franco rides her. He's only won 1 Breeders' Cup race. I believe he was sharing Juvenile Fillies Turf.
Well, yeah.
2018. And also, the Pilgrim was supposed to be run. It was washed out the other day, right? So it's going to be run.
No, the Pilgrim was run. It was the Miss Grillo.
Talma. No, I'm losing my mind right now.
It's okay. It's Miss Grillo.
Yeah, the Miss Grillo was washed out. So the Miss Grillo is going to be the same day. So there are some cross-entry situations.
Oh, okay.
Horses like Coretto cross-entered for Graham Motion. I think it's a good chance whichever race they decide to go with.
The Miss Grillo's actually been rescheduled to October 6th. They're at Belmont at the Big A. Also on October 6th, its regular schedule is the Cutter Prix Marcel Boussac at Paris Longchamp. And you're going to be there, right?
I am. And I'll be there. And I think this could be quite pivotal because we've got Bedtime Story in exactly that are running in this. Bedtime Story bombed out when last seen. She broke her beaten record, but she was too headstrong. She set an overly fast pace. That's not too bad. It will come Del Mar. But it also turned out she was lame after the race. So I think the
Oh.
last time she was seen might not have been her true reflection. Keep an eye on her and the pre-Marcel Boussac. I know that FanDuel will be airing it, and I'm on the world feed, and I think you're going to be linking back into me.
Okay.
So hopefully I'll be able to say hi. So yeah, I think she's the one that might be of note, because if we don't see Lake Victoria, could be quite a weak load of Europeans. I wouldn't be certain as to who else might be there. There isn't anything standout, as you say, Celandine, who does show a lot of gate speed. I think they'd be happy to try her out, but not the strongest of races for us. So that might help those who are in support of the home camp.
All right. Well, just so if Matt needs to be dismissed, I'm actually going to jump ahead to the 2 dirt races.
Yeah. Okay.
And then Jess and I will come back to some of the Europeans that we're looking forward to. And let's go ahead to the NetJets Juvenile Fillies $2 million race, a mile and the 16th on the dirt. Now, this was not a official win and you're in where the berth is automatic, but this is a dirt dozen race. I'm talking about the spin away. What's the dirt dozen? Well, there are a series of races that were chosen by Breeders' Cup where, again, not a total win and you're in, but the winner in this case, $30,000 toward entry fees. And the winner was Immersive. And this is for owner breeder Godolphin, trained by Brad Cox, ridden by Manny Franco. She is now 2 for 2. She's going to be actually running in the Alcibiades, which is going to be race 9 at Keeneland on Friday. But let's go ahead and look at her win in
It's very sloppy. It looks sloppy. It's listed as muddy.
We're going to have beautiful weather this weekend at Keeneland. Beautiful.
Yeah, it's going to be gorgeous. It's going to be warm. It's going to be Jess, you would love it. It's going to be 78. It's going to be sunny. It's not going to be a cloud in the sky.
He's on the rail.
We'll be thinking about you.
Paris will not be the same.
This is a very good performance. The race, and you might think, well, it's an off racetrack that helped. Possibly, I think it's more than that. I just think she has a great combination. What you're looking for with the 2. I mean, she was 12 to 1. In this race, big field. Look at the professionalism. Look at her rate. A lot of 2-year-old fillies, a lot of 2-year-olds in general, a lot of 2-year-olds, lightly raced horses don't like to be in this position. She's down on the inside. She has horses right to her outside. You can see her. She's easy to Godolphin Blue. And look at her drop back a little bit.
Yeah.
Try to get comfortable in a comfortable spot. She listens to the jockey. They're in communication. They're getting along extremely well at this point. I love everything about this. She has speed. She doesn't need the lead. Now she's in the garden spot. And you might think, well, she had a great trip. But I think she made her great trip. She has the ability most 2-year-olds don't have the ability to drop back like that from the inside. They get a little rank. They get a little upset. They don't like being in there. And it's not easy to get them outside. Now you move her outside. You have dead aim on the runners in front of you. Yeah, they're getting a little tired. Over this track listed as muddy. It's probably between a muddy and a sloppy racetrack, but the designation was muddy, and they are going 7/8 for any horses. That's a stamina distance. And you can see that the top 2, Quiet Side, not easy to get by, and they are a million clear of the 3rd place finisher. I love the way she finishes. Look at this. I mean, that was a very, very good performance. And then you look at the figures. And the figures will tell you that too. I think the buyer came back 84. That's we've seen some spinaways where the numbers are 68, 72. That was a fast race.
And we're going to actually see a rematch because Quiet Side will also be in the Darley Alcibiades, as well as Sherbini and the Queen's MG, who had finished 5th. She had previously won the Schuylerville and then the Grade 3 Adirondack by 9 lengths. So a really contentious group there in the Darley Alcibiades.
Yeah, and Quiet Side is going to be tough based on that performance. She had an outside post in that race too. She had a little bit of issues. Yeah, it was fairly easy, I thought, for Immersive to get by her, but Quiet Side has a big chance to redeem herself, I think, in this race in a couple of days.
Yeah, and Immersive, she's now going from the inside rail there in the spinaway to the far outside in the Alcibiades. Fun fact, one of my favorite Nicks, because got to add that pedigree sprinkle in, Nyquist over a Bernardini mare, in this case, Gap Year. Gap Year is out of Dubai Escapade. Dubai Escapade, not only was she accomplished herself, but a half-sister to Madcap Escapade. So very nicely bred.
And Gap Year was favored in the Alcibiades as a maiden
Look at you.
Back in the day. And what happened to her for Kira McLaughlin? She finished 7th. She didn't run very well. Then she went back to the maiden ranks, broke her maiden in her next start.
Maybe the daughter can avenge her.
Yeah.
But it's a really beautiful pedigree. I had Michael Banahan from Godolphin on the show last week. So you can find out more about her. They
He's
also
a lovely
have,
man, isn't he? He's
oh,
a lovely man. He's a lovely man.
Everybody there is awesome.
Michael
Okay.
in particular. He's a lovely man.
Michael, Darren, Kate, Mr. Pride, Dan Pride. They're all great.
Yeah, you're right.
Yeah, you got to give a shout out to Darren every time. Okay, so now another race. I'm not going to show this one because it was really hard to find a good replay on it. But LaCara, she also won a dirt dozen race. She won the Pocahontas Stakes, another trainee of Mark Cassie, and she's out of Cara Caterina by Bernardini. More love to him. The mom's a full sister to Angela Renee and to Honor and Serve. So very nice pedigree there. Both fillies, in addition to the Dirt Dozen angle, they both now have points toward the Kentucky Oaks. So wanted to make mention.
Cara, I think she might have regret. Her maiden win was spectacular visually. And then even though she won the Pocahontas, she regressed a little bit in that race, but give her credit for kind of regressing a little bit and still winning a race of that magnitude. Although the Pocahontas was a bit pokey this year.
Ooh. Okay, so here's 10 Ma. I want to show her really quickly. This race, not a win in your in or anything, but she won the FanDuel Del Mar debutante, and I thought she looked great. And this is another daughter of Nyquist and trained by Bob Baffert. So
yeah, she was the 3-1 second choice in this race. She's the 6th horse, right? She's sitting in 5th at this point.
Yeah.
And the favorite doesn't fire in this race. The favorite was Nooney. I think you mentioned that. She was the heavy favorite in this race. She's in a perfect spot, and she just backs out of it.
Well, she does get kind of like coming across the turn there, or going for the turn. There's a little steady situation. But
it was a perfect trip for Tenma. There was an inquiry in this race. They looked at it for a while. It didn't involve Tenma. I think it involved the 2nd through 4th place finishers. They made no change. So it ended up being a 2-horse race with Tenma, who's down on the inside, and Vodka with a twist, who's the 4 in this race. So Vodka with a twist is the horse going to the lead, taking control of this race from the favorite. Here comes Tenma, and you're thinking right now it's going to be a 3-horse race, and then she isn't tight. She's off heels for sure. But she never recovers from that. You like to have seen some sort of fight back after that incident, and we got none. And then all of a sudden, these 2 horses are going down to the wire, and Tenma's able to win a very tight photo. I think the margin's a nose here in this race. Yeah, a nose over Vodka with a twist.
74 buyer for her for that win. That was Kimura aboard, by the way.
Kazushi, love him.
Kazushi Kimura, and for Baumo Corp, and just another filly to have on the radar there. She's now 2 for 2. She was actually bred by Bobby Flay, and something else I just wanted to mention regarding her. I mentioned she's by Nyquist, but we also get that cross again because remember. With Immersive, she's out of a Bernardini mare. Bernardini is a son of AP Indy. In this case, Tenma is out of a Magancent by Tappet, who's by Pulpit, by AP Indy. So you get that same Nyquist over. I love AP. I have a soft spot for him. Okay, so we talked about the Darley Alcibiades already. It's going to be one of our next. It is our next win, and you're in for the Breeders' Cup Juvenile Fillies. Then on October 5th, Saturday, we have the Frizette at Belmont at the Big A. That goes off as race 7, and it's going to feature a filly. I don't have her replay pulled up, but I encourage you all to go look her up because she looks kind of freaky. I'm talking about Senza Parole, a daughter of Gunrunner out of Sensate by Street Cry. Trained by Chad Brown. Rad Ortiz is aboard. This is a Don Alberto homebred. She put up a 94 buyer speed figure on debut back on August 23rd. It was race 1 that day. She scored by 7 3/4 lengths, and she looks so professional doing it. Irad took her back. She was first in between horses on the front end. He took her back, and she listened. And then when he asked her to go, it was push button. He didn't even have to do much of anything. There have been 3 to 1 run back from that race. All 3 in the money, including a next out winner in Stunner. Matt, you
Yeah,
saw that.
the horse that she beat. And the only thing I'll say is 95% of the time when a first time starter at 2 wins and gets a mid 90s buyer, they do it gate to wire. I might be conservative.
This was different,
It might be
right?
98% of the time. They do it with their speed here, and they go gate to wire. They win by 10 and earn a 96. She, as you mentioned, she was professional in earning a 94 in her debut sprinting. And with that kind of pedigree, gun runner street cry.
Oh,
yeah.
yeah,
I mean, the
all day
future is
long.
bright. Future is
All
very
day
bright.
long. I love it. Okay, so we also have another one in October 5th for the Breeders' Cup Juvenile Fillies. That is the Oak Leaf Stakes at Santa Anita. Now, let's see if we can get this in for you, Matt. Ready?
Okay.
The FanDuel Juvenile, $2 million on the line. Mile on the 16th on the dirt. Dirt dozen winner of the Del Mar Futurity, which was September 8th at Del Mar also. Talking about gaming, another Bob Baffert runner. This one is actually a son of game winner who won the Breeders' Cup Juvenile. And then out of So Stylish by another Breeders' Cup Juvenile winner, Johannesburg, who we mentioned earlier, was also champion 2-year-old in Europe. So let's go ahead and pull that up.
Yeah, he's the 2 horse, and he doesn't break particularly well in this race, which, I mean, it's not awful. Keep your eye on the 2. You tell me at home, you're watching. It's all opinion here. A little sluggish out of the gate. It's a little hard to tell from the head on, but you can see he's dead last, and he's a horse who has some speed. And
Bob had multiple horses in this race that were well matched. You had Getaway Car, who didn't end up in the top 3, but
these are the famous Mike Pegram Silks down the inside. Mike Pegram been doing this, I think, real quiet back in 98. Silver Bullet Day, the great filly. So he's been a big time owner for Baffert for nearly 30 years, and they've been best friends forever. I love this move down on the inside from this horse. You mentioned game winner. He won. I think he won at Churchill as the 4 to 5 favorite. That was that awful chalk fest at Churchill Downs. I know a Naval won. It was like favorite after favorite after favorite. Needless to say, I got buried that day.
You're not bitter about it. You're not bitter.
No, it's been 6 years. I've recovered, as you can tell.
We haven't been back to Churchill since.
I know.
I was there 2 days ago. So here he is in the lead right now, and I thought this is a very good win. 7 furlongs, 123. One thing to keep in mind, you're going to be seeing a lot of these horses now in their next start, obviously going 2 turns. But the horses in New York that are going to be coming into the Breeders' Cup, those horses might not have 2-turn experience. They're probably not, because obviously 1-turn miles, the races this weekend we're going to talk about in New York that we've already discussed. Those races are 1 turn. So that's a big advantage, I think, for horses coming out of the Breeders' Futurity at Keeneland, coming out of the 2-year-old races in Southern California. That's an advantage, having that 2-turn experience that the other horses in New York will not have.
Yeah, but that was a nice win, and it's also nice to see a horse.
81 buyer.
Yeah, and this is the first crop 4 game winner. Also worthy of mention, while not trained by Bob, the runner up there, McKinsey Street, son of McKinsey, who Bob did train.
Yeah,
his first crop are doing very well. Additionally to that, so I mean, again, we keep our eyes open because we are not, the juvenile is going to be 2 turns. But let me see here. I just want to check something real quick. Citizen Bull put in a nice Shodo performance there as well. And another one of the Bob trainees. Okay, so now moving on. Let's see here. I've got my little rundown. Okay, so we talked about gaming.
You want to mention Jonathan's Way, right?
I'm going to mention Jonathan's Way. I do not have the replay for this. But Jonathan's Way won one of the Dirt Dozen races, the Iroquois, which is also a Derby points race. This was on September 14th at Churchill Downs. A son of another first crop sire, Vacoma, out of Female Drama, the best kind, right? By Indian Charlie. I know. This one's owned by Rigney Racing. Fun fact, Rigney Racing also bred Chancellor McPatrick, who won the Hopeful. They don't own him, but they bred him. But this one, Jonathan's Way, owned by Rigney Racing, trained by Phil Bauer, ridden by Joel Rosario.
Excellent trainer, Phil Bauer.
Yes,
excellent.
And he was bred by Susan Anderson Racing, and he's 2 for 2 now, having won the Iroquois. Put up an 89 buyer figure for that.
And back to Real Quiet. Back to Real Quiet, Ren. This horse that an Indian Charlie mare who was favored in the 98 Derby for Baffert, but his other horse, Real Quiet, was the horse who won that year.
Oh, there you go. Look at that.
There you go.
But let's talk about Chancellor McPatrick. I have the Hopeful pulled up here. Let's see here. Yes, Chancer McPatrick. And we're going to want to pay attention to Chancer McPatrick as well as the runner-up Ferocious, because Ferocious is going to be running. Let's see here. We've got the Win in Your In coming up, the Claiborne Breeders' Futurity. And that horse, boy, they spent some money for him. For Ferocious, $1.3 million at the OBS March sale.
Yeah, I mean, this won't be this. The only thing I worry about with Chancer McPatrick is that he's a rare 2-year-old dirt horse obviously in the U.S. who's slow early. You don't see dead closers at 2 be this good, and so I worry because I've been doing this forever. One of the angles that I've never liked, there's always exceptions to everything. I've never been a fan of horses that are closers in one-turn sprint races going long. There are exceptions. There's some horses that have the unbelievable pedigree to do it, and they do it. We're frozen here. But for the most part, I don't like that. So, if he goes into the Breeders' Cup, he's going to be going 2 turns, having only, I would think he's going to close again at a mile in the Champagne. And the worry is that in the one-turn races, the pace is faster. And with the faster pace, you're far back and you make that one run. In the 2-turn race, the pace isn't as fast. You're closer to the pace a little bit. Maybe instead of being the back of the pack, you're mid-pack and you flatten out a little bit. That's what I always worry about. So this is a horse that maybe he's that good. And here he is, flying at the end of this race to the far outside in the green cap to get up and win with Flavian Pratt.
And Ferocious has got that blaze there.
Yeah. I mean, this is a really good win.
But Matt, can we also acknowledge the fact that this horse out of the gate, Pratt, the iron came off.
Right.
His foot came out of the iron. So that was really much better than it appears, because I mean, if you watch the head on, it took a minute to get back into the irons. And
he's bred to get the distance too.
Yes, absolutely. He's we already mentioned McKinsey. He's by McKinsey. He's out of Bernardini by Bernardini. I mean, Bernardini is insane as a broodmare sire, no? So real quick, we've got Ferocious going into the Breeders' Futurity on Saturday at Keeneland, the Claiborne Breeders' Futurity. How cool to see a son of Flatter, who's a son of AP Indy, go for $1.3 million. I love that. You can see the influence in those genetics when you look at this horse. He is trained by Gustavo Delgado, who trained Mage. Owned by
That's
JR
an excellent
Ranch.
race, by the way. That is an excellent race.
Oh my gosh, yes.
Excellent.
Ramiro Restrepo, our friend, he owns part of the horse. High Step Racing, OGMA Investments. The mom, by the way, halves to Grade 1 Millionaire obligatory, and the family also includes multimillionaire Country Grammar and Prix de la Forêt winner, a 12-month pump. But also in the race in the Claiborne Breeders' Futurity is Filoso, who was interestingly co-bred by Oisin Murphy. This horse is trained by Chad Summers for Gold Square. And then, as I mentioned before, talked to Michael Banahan. Godolphin has East Avenue, trained by Brendan Walsh. He won his debut by 8 lengths at Ellis Park, an 86 buyer figure. You got Gaffalione taking the reins for the first time. So real quick, your impressions on that, and then you can bounce.
Okay, I like Filoso. I think he's going to win. I loved his win.
Oh, Oisin would love to hear that.
I love his win at Saratoga. And Saratoga is one of those quirky miles, right? It's not one turn. It's not 2 turns. They kind of go right into a turn, so it's kind of 1.5 turns. So, I loved his performance then. He sat up the pace, but he rated a little bit, steadied a little bit at the 7/8, and still was able to recover. So he overcame some adversity, I thought, in a pretty big field too. 9-horse field, breaking towards the inside. I thought Dapper Moon was interesting for Dallas Stewart. His maiden win was very good. Tenacious Leader, who lost to Zulu Kingdom, who came back to win the Pilgrim. I know those are turf race, but this horse, has won on dirt already. So it's a wide open race. I'm a little concerned about East Avenue, even though he was spectacular looking in his debut. Horses that were behind him in that race have come back and stunk.
I saw that.
It's been kind of a reverse key race. So I'd be a little careful with East Avenue because of that.
He did beat them by 8, though. So
no, you're right.
We'll see. Our next one you're in for the Breeders' Cup Juvenile, the Breeders' Cup FanDuel Juvenile. I got to give your guys some love, right? Is the American Pharoah Stakes October 5th at Santa Anita. Okay, Matt, you can bounce bounce yourself out of the webpage too. And and it's gonna be neat.
Sorry if I'm sweating. It might be 120 degrees in our dining room right now. It might be 120 degrees in here. So, all right. See you guys.
Bye, Matt. See you next
Bye.
week whenever we will be together again.
Adios, Matt Carothers. Okay, Jess. Sorry, like, oh,
I'm learning. I'm learning so much. Okay, I've got to keep an eye on all these turf horses, but the dirt horses, I need to do a lot of work.
What did you think?
Make sure
Now that I don't have to, like, speed up the analysis, what do you think of our turf horses in comparison to what you're seeing there in Europe, and what your horses are going to have to do when they come over that is going to be different? You have a lot of horses who have never taken a turn before, for example.
Yeah.
The training is different. You mentioned the gates are different.
Yeah, totally. And there are a couple of races that I like keeping an eye on where we do have turns because they are quite a good stepping stone in. There's a race at Kempton called the Sweet Solarius Stakes, which Starlast won last year. Yeah. I think I sent it to you. Starlast won it last year, and he ran third to Unquestionable, did he not? Last year. So, and that was going around a bend. Dundalk in Ireland has it's on an all-weather surface, but it's got quite a notable race that comes up this Friday, actually. It's called the Star of Peel Stakes. That's going around a turn. I do think it's really valuable to get a horse experience going around a turn, because it was something that I was kind of nervous about with Big Evs last year. I was thinking, how will he do? He was lucky, he got the draw, but he got given a world-class ride, I think, as well by Tom Marquand. So everything has to kind of fall into place. Draw gate position is going to be the doing or making of a horse anyway. But having a bit more experience when it comes to different kind of tracks is very valuable, because, as you know, a lot of them are going straight over here in the UK and in Ireland. So it's a completely different world when you come to Del Mar. So you've got to have a very streetwise horse, I think. But it's the other thing that I always, watching back some of those horses that were just there in screen that Matt was showing, the horse that kind of had a slowish start, he was like asking whether he thought it was slow, and then the horse found itself really shuffled back. But it had a lot of natural pace to get himself into contention. We worry so much that if you don't have gate speed, you won't be able to run well in the Breeders' Cup. But actually, it's not about that. It's being able to quicken whilst the natural pace of the race is on. So I think that doesn't mean that you should just completely overlook a horse who's not been brilliantly quick all the time. So there are factors, but definitely think a horse that's
there have been several horses. I can't by name think of one right now, but that's the thing. I think at the end of the day, the horse has to have the heart to recover from whatever happens out of that gate. Because we now have more time, why don't we go back? You did mention a horse who ran and won at Kempton, Celandine, and this was a juvenile fillies turf potential runner.
That was
right?
That was at York, the Lowther Stakes.
Yeah. Oh, I'm sorry. The Lowther Stakes. No, this is on. Yes. Oh, sorry. This is on the Lowther Stakes. Let's take back to her. And there's another horse I wanted to talk about more in depth. But here's the Lowther Stakes with Celandine.
So she came out of stall 4 and she was quick. And that was the one thing I was thinking, gosh, she's got the pace. She's really quick at the stall. So she's a horse that, definitely wears her heart on the sleeve. She's there with the navy sleeves, navy hat. She's showing, the pace, and she's showing the guts. And I think that's what, as I said, I really enjoyed seeing about Asterius and Big Mojo for the juvenile turf sprint races. And that's what you've got to kind of have in your locker, isn't it? So Celandine definitely has that. I don't know. The race has actually worked out quite nicely. The horse that ran behind her, Time for Sandals, is a horse that is of a good level, but not massively strong. Liavani hasn't run that well, but Heaven's Gate, who was 4th behind her, has recently gone and won a Group 3. So the race is working out nicely. But she had to show a lot of guts out in front, and Tom Marquand was really good on her. And I'm hopeful that Tom's going to be back over to ride Big Evs in the Breeders' Cup Turf Sprint, and I'd imagine he'll be on board her again. So I like her. She's got a good attitude. I wouldn't imagine that she's got a favourites chance, but she definitely deserves her chance in this. She ran poorly next time out, but that was on soft ground.
We'll see. And that's, I mean, there's all these different variables that come to play. Now, the race that was at Kempton that you mentioned, and this is going to take it back to talking about the juvenile turf sprint, is Symbol of Strength back on September 7th, winning the Serenia Stakes, excuse me.
Serenia Stakes. Yeah, I said
Yeah.
Sweet Celerio. It's Serenia Stakes. Yeah.
Hey,
silly names. Who knows?
my
where they all
gosh,
come
I
from.
butchered the whole intro into the show today, so no worries. Let's see here. Where do I have this replay now? I'm just looking for, I have so many replays pulled up, and I was starting to get sad. I thought, oh no, I've missed. Oh, you know what? I already closed it. Never
That's
mind. We're not
okay.
gonna. But you can talk about it.
I can talk you through it. This is a horse that
you can talk about it. So what was it that caught your eye? Now that was on all weather, but he's run on.
Yeah, he's run on turf. All his 3 runs beforehand were on turf. You know, the all weather, it's similar to kind of quickish surface. There's nothing to, you know, a lot of horses switch back from all weather to turf quite a lot. I like that he was a horse that had to really, you know, find another gear when horses came to him around him. He was very quick out early. He was a horse that was, you know, he was asked to really find his extra gear. Didn't take him immediate time to pick up, but he apparently didn't love the all-weather surface. Now, as I said, you do chop and change quite a lot, but it was his first time ever trying it. So potentially it was just something that he was just trying to get used to. But I think that this is a horse that is clearly could improve. He could actually be a horse that could go over slightly further. But it's just been a good race to follow into the Breeders' Cup. As I said, we saw Starlust won it last year, and then the year before Mischief Magic won it. So
that's right.
we know what he's done it. So I don't know, for whatever reason, when I'm handicapping, when I'm trying to find my edges, I'm trying to find races that I think might just unearth something that will have the experience. And because Kempton has a bend, has a swing round, it's shown these 2-year-olds what they can do, and that might just give them a slight edge over some of the others.
Yeah, I think that makes so much sense. I also want to give a shout out again to one of the other horses we already did go over, and Asterius. I did want to mention the fact that both he and Shareholder are owned by Wathnon Racing, which, boy, I mean, they're having global success, because we just saw another horse they own, Subsanador, get his ticket punched to the Breeders' Cup Classic, the Longines Breeders' Cup Classic, when he won the California Cup, the Cali Crown, rather. And so I think that's really interesting to just, you know, when you see a stable have that type of dynamic success. Global, different surfaces.
Oh, they are throwing big shapes in it. You know, a few years ago they came on the scene. I think it was 2 years ago, 2 and a bit years ago. They made a big march for Royal Ascot, and they won the Gold Cup with Courage Mon Ami. You know, it was Frankie's last year riding here in Europe. So a year and a half ago, sorry. And
isn't that crazy how time flies? Oh my gosh.
I know. What? It feels like he's been gone forever. Like, we don't even talk about him anymore.
Well, we took him. So
you take it. He clearly prefers you guys so much more. Aww. No, we've been fascinated by Wathnon and how much they're investing. You know, it's great for racing. They want to be at the biggest events. They want to be at you know, Dubai World Cup, Royal Ascot. They want to be obviously in Saudi, where they're originally from, but the Breeders' Cup, the World Championships, that's what it's all about as well. So they'll be there with big numbers.
I think it's very, very cool to see, because it tells you that they're laser focused on the right horse. They're getting the right pedigrees. They're getting the right physical, and it's just coming together. I'm not 100% sure. I'll check it up real quick, but I think Case Clay might be working with Wathnon Racing. Yes. And Case Clay, he used to be like, you know, there at Three Chimneys, and just an absolute joy to speak with. He loves the horses. It's his passion. And, you know, he's just really somebody's got their pulse on the right horse, you know, in terms of, again, the physical, in terms of the pedigree. So it's very cool to see him having success, having now branched out for his own Case Clay Thoroughbred management. But now, you know what, Bobby, by the way, everybody, this is live right now. So if you do have a question for Jess, as I told you, like, you know, as a public you probably feel the same way, Jess. Like, as a public handicapper, we're pretty self-confident in our own toolbox. So we don't necessarily listen to our colleagues too much, even though we respect our colleagues, but we do our own work. We do our own handicapping, and we either succeed or fail at the windows on our own accord, right?
We have to. I mean, we have to be confident, but it can be scary sometimes when you're standing up there and you know that people are waiting for the next one, and it might not have been a great day or a great week. So you've got to back yourself massively.
No, I know. But I mean, that being said, even though, like, as somebody who, you know, I generally I don't even listen to my husband unless he tells me he loves something. Because I've you know, although he is one of the few people I will bet blindly. If he says, bet this horse, you know, I'll take his word. But, you know, there are very few people where I feel like, oh, I need to listen to what they have to say. And it's not that I don't respect them. It's just I've already done it in my own head. Generally, when I am looking at any given weekend. But you, and of course, my husband. But, like, I love listening to your presentations because you really put in the work. And not that the others don't, but it's just you're telling me information that I don't know otherwise. And I really appreciate everything that you put into the broadcast that you do.
Oh, well, thank you. That's great to hear, because sometimes it's so early in the morning. I don't know whether people are awake depending on where you are, but I think what's so important is to remind everyone that, you know, we're a big old network, but even though we feel like we're, you know, a few million miles away from each other in some respect, we're actually really interlinked. You know, you talk about the pedigrees you have on offer, where they all come back from. We're all kind of one big family when it comes to horses. So there are a lot of nuances, but there are also lots of similarities too. That, you know, I'm always learning from everyone else. But the best thing that I like to gain is that when I do come, and when I love coming to San Trinita last year, was that people came up with like, oh my God, I watched the show. I watched European racing. And I feel like I know kind of what's coming up now, or at least I know what we do that you don't do, or we know the people in our sport. You know, you're a big lover and advocate of not just the horses, but the people, the horsemen behind, the owners, the breeders, the jockeys, the syndicates, the groups. And we've got a lot of names that people know of. You know the Aidan O'Briens and the John Gosdens, and we gave you Frankie Dettori because you were so obsessed with him, whatever. And but we've got a lot of people as well. You know, I saw you had Oisin Murphy on your show recently, and he's a great guy. Carl Burke. You know, people should know him as regular as Aidan, because he's just had the most insane season. So hopefully I'm showing off more people that you know, deserve to be, you know, noted and followed as much as they deserve to be. So I'll be there following them all.
You do, and you make it accessible, and you the passion comes across, because I mean, this has been your life. You also own and breed, and you know, get out there at the sales and all of that.
Well, I hope, Ren, that maybe the horse that my uncle bred, but it's all like our family, JRB, who won at Royal Ascot earlier this year, he might be coming over for the Breeders' Cup Turf, and I can't tell you. And my uncle's like, I'm not going to be able to go, but you can. I mean, I'll be working. But I'll be like representing, and like it's the Breeders' Cup, and to be the breeder of a horse like that is, honestly, it gives me goosebumps. So we're very proud at the moment, and we've got his half brother selling in the next few weeks. So it's very exciting times in our family. Looking forward to that.
Well, I'm just warning you now. You're going to have probably a camera on you now that they know that you have a tie to a runner in that race. They've done it to the FanDuel on-air team whenever they've got a horse in that they've got a connection with. And I've seen Brittany go crazy. I've seen Christina Blacker go crazy. So just be prepared for that.
I know. I don't do it as pretty as Brittany and Christina do.
You do. Come on.
I don't think I would do.
I don't know if you've ever seen the video of me cheering, but like I look like I'm gonna break something when I'm into it. It's like, but we actually
there's a lot of screaming.
We actually do have some questions, and let's see. Oh, it's my friend. It's Jonathan Green of DJ Stable. Hey, Jonathan. So he says, Jess, is there a European track that plays similarly to the faster turf courses here in the States?
That's a really good question. So, obviously it's all dependent on our ground, and at least very much over the course of the summer that you're not going to get huge downpours. You know that it's probably going to be quite even, whereas we have to wait and see how the weather plays out. Goodwood is a track where you've got a speed-based 5 furlong, 6 furlong sprint. So when you come to a track like Goodwood, it's going to be sharp compared to an Ascot, which is a stiffer finish and has got more of a hill climb. So I would say that, but we do things totally different because we do things straight. So I think it would be difficult to do that when in respect to our juveniles, say on some of the longer distance races, especially when we've got things like when it comes to the Breeders' Cup Classic, like the best we can give you probably is what we showed with City of Troy going around at Southwell, because he's going around turns. It's not as sharp, but it's a similar flat nature, but that's because it's literally as flat as you can do for the UK. I mean, all of our tracks are built around the natural terrain that we have, which is just like hills and climbs and figure of eights. Like, that's why I love to show you guys when I can do, like, you look at Epsom and it's like you're going down there, horses are trying to run, but they're like continually going down. It's crazy. So I wouldn't say that there's anything that plays similar. Speed wise, I would give you Goodwood, just because from a speed base, you're going to have to be a pretty quick horse, but that's going straight, not going round.
Do you know, I saw recently, I wish I had it to show right now because it blew my mind. Somebody posted a picture of the different racecourse configurations across the UK, and it was insane. There were so many different twists and bends, and I've never realized that so many tracks were so different. And then I thought to myself, the riders, just how on top of it they have to be to just keep in mind which each configuration is. I mean, it's nuts.
It's nuts. And we actually have some really great, websites and things where jockeys who've ridden every track will give you their description and analysis of how it's like to ride, and that can be really help when you're handicapping, when you've seen a horse that's ridden as one place and then is going on to the next. So that is quite helpful. The thing is with our tracks is that in general we have very long straights as well. So even if you're coming around a turn, our straight, like Leopardstown's a good track that we have for the Irish Champion Stakes recently, where you would have seen Economics when it's not the longest of straights compared to the others, and it's pretty flat as well. But it's a very wide galloping nature to the actual racetrack around you. So there's a lot of room for horses. That's why a lot of trainers are a little bit nervy about coming to the likes of Del Mar, because it's really tests the sharpness and the speed on horses that are used to more galloping nature. Which that's going to test their versatility, I suppose.
Yeah. Well, do you agree with Bobby York when it's?
I do. Yes. Spot on. Yeah. Lightning fast. This year, if you were watching it with me, I think if you were handicapping, I was doing the same. You're head scratching. The only problem with York I found this year, and it was not great, was that there was such a big draw bias to one side of the track to the other. Yeah. So Brad Sell, who won the Nunthorpe Stakes, was drawn on the far side of the track, and the horse that led the pace, he was fast for 4 furlongs and then kind of fell in the hole, and Brad Sell was following him on that right side all the way, and they had such an advantage that those on the near side, even though they ran brilliantly, they were like 3 or 4 lengths off them. And that sometimes could be when just the better, faster ground is on that side. So slight inconsistencies can really challenge a track. But yeah, Bobby, you're spot on. York is a lightning fast track, and that's why we've got the 5 furlong race, the Nunthorpe there, where, as you know, it has been a track where US horses have come and tried to give it a go in the past.
And you just mentioned Bradsell, who went on to win the Bar 1 Flying 5, a win in your end for the Breeders' Cup. So that's pretty exciting.
He's won 2 win in your ends. He's still got the potential of running in the Prix de l'Abbé this weekend, but the ground is going to be soft. He actually came to Santa Anita last year and was scratched before the race. I don't know. Yeah, I can't really remember what the reason was, but then he went on and had a really bad injury at the beginning of the season, and he's like a miracle that he's back. I am actually going to be with Anna James tomorrow. You know,
Anna's great. Tell her hi.
I will do. And she's over here in the UK at the moment. And we're going to go see Holly Doyle tomorrow because we're going to do a little piece about winning a Breeders' Cup win in your in race, because she's won 2, and she was the first female jockey to win a win in your in race, which is cool. You know, she's broken so many molds. It'd be great to see a female jockey win a Breeders' Cup race. But she's very well associated with Bradsell. She gets on so well with him. It'd be cool to see him out there. And yeah, he's already beaten Big Evs once this season, but Big Evs obviously has been over and knows what it takes to win a Breeders' Cup. So I think that'll be interesting.
Big Evs. Bobby also said, Jess, a possible horse to keep a watch out for future is Aidan O'Brien in Dramatic. She was supposed to run her first start the other day in Ireland, but they scratched.
Dramatic. Yeah, I need it. She's supposed to run her first start the other day in Ireland, but they scratched her. I need to look at Dramatic. If she's not run at this stage, then I doubt that she'll be running come Breeders' Cup, I would say. But yeah, possibly. Look, they're getting out a lot of their 2-year-olds at the moment. And also they seem to be happy to, you know, run them and then kind of wait and see. You know, they have run a lot of good 2-year-olds already this year. Their standards of 2-year-olds are extremely high and a lot better than you know, Godolphin's. Godolphin's had a very quiet year in general. Who knows why? I'm just bringing up Dramatic now. Yeah, been a non-runner 2 times. This was the Magdagliadoro. Yeah, I remember this filly now. She was due to run Dundalk and at Naas, both times non-runner, scratched because of unsuitable ground at Naas, maybe because it was kind of on the soft side. She doesn't have any entries. I don't know. I would imagine maybe it's a bit late now if they want to get her in to think about a Breeders' Cup, but we've seen crazier things happen.
No, that's for sure. But yeah, I would probably say that is not likely. But Bobby also said, I do want to mention this because I thought it was an interesting tidbit. I don't know where he read this, but if Brendan Walsh said this, then hello, I for sure will take him at his word. East Avenue, again, he's going to be running in our Claiborne Breeders' Futurity. Won first out at Ellis Park by 8 lengths. East Avenue is a beast, and Brendan Walsh, said this horse is probably the best horse he's ever trained. Brendan trained Maxfield,
I love Maxfield.
I love him too.
I remember watching him in was it Keeneland? And this was when I was over. It feels like ages ago now. How many years ago would it have been? Like 4? I don't know. Anyway, I love Brendan. What a lovely man. He's such a genuine guy. I remember watching East Avenue winning first time out, and I was like, huh? What is this? Like I don't know what he'd necessarily be, but he's closely related to Cody's Wish, isn't he?
Yeah. I mean, they're bred on that same type of. Well,
I thought he was. Was there not a relation to Cody's Wish?
No,
maybe.
but there's no, it's not even really.
Oh, the Dam. I'm looking at him now. The Dam is an unraced half sister to US winners Cody's Wish.
Oh, there you go. Then yes. Yeah.
Dance music out of Go Sapper. Yeah, I remember because I remember being like, what is this? And obviously, like Godolphin, whatever. So I wanted to see the pedigree, but I don't know if Ellis Park produces 2-year-olds of that quality like all the time. But I just was like, well, I agree with you. Agree with you, Bobby. It could be, he could be a good one.
No, I mean, they're just oh gosh, now I'm trying to look here. Whose page do we have pulled up? Tell me again. Do you have Maxfield's or Cody's?
I've got East Avenue. I've got East Avenues.
Oh, East Avenue. Okay, I was getting confused. I was like, wait a second.
Yeah, I've got. I know
East Avenue. Yes. Yes, because like I was gonna say, I mean, there's the only thing that's this. Okay, yes, East Avenue himself, right? And the other thing I love about it, and this is what I've told other people before. So again, just to clarify, y'all, because I was confused just for a second. Sorry, because we're talking about so many horses.
Yeah.
So East Avenue is related to Cody's Wish. And we were talking about Maxfield before and just how much we love Maxfield. Maxfield's not the relation. However, this is a fun fact because I love it and it ties into one of the people think I'm crazy for this. And John, if you're still watching, okay. I tell him you need to buy a 1X horse. He hasn't bought a 1X horse at this past sale. In any case, so I like the family numbers, not because Bruce Lowe, for you all who don't know, Bruce Lowe back in the like late 1800s, he had this whole number system of rating the female family. So he would take like a root mare and from her and her branches, how many Epsom Derby winners and other stars were coming from that specific line. Now, I don't look at it for that reason because, yes, I understand why other people would think, okay, well, you could potentially have as many good horses as bad horses from that same family, which is absolutely true. You could, undoubtedly. I just like this number system because, with a few exceptions where they did get it wrong, which mare belonged to which family way back when, I can just know, oh, when I see, for example, 1X, that's La Troyenne. I know it just off the minute I see it. Oh, okay. He says this. 1X horses cost $5. Hey, worth it. Because here's the thing. So East Avenue, we're talking about East Avenue.
Come on, Jonathan, you can do it.
That's right. Like East Avenue, Maxfield is also 1X. So East Avenue is a 1X family member and Maxfield's a 1X family member. And the reason why I find this so interesting as we're talking about the Breeders' Cup and the FanDuel Juvenile in particular is this. If you take out last year, because last year we did not have a 1X horse in the race. If you go back to 2022, back 5 years, however, four of the 5 Breeders' Cup juvenile races were won by 1X horses.
Wow.
Statistically speaking, when there is the original number of families was 42, and then it increased to like some other number because then they started adding the American bred horses and then horses from around the world. That statistically speaking, when there are so many different numbers, is crazy. 4 of 5, and they're not even the only juvenile winners. That's just where I'm putting it in one little short time span. So I'm just saying, if you're looking for a juvenile horse, you want to go family 1X. And East Avenue, not only is he a close relation to Cody's Wish, but he is a 1X horse, like Cody's Wish, obviously, because he would be from that same family. So there you go.
Interesting.
Everybody, that's so
every day is a school day. I love it.
Every day is a school day. Another horse is too bad. I was disappointed by the performance in the Del Mar Futurity, but another horse who is a current 2-year-old, is the Best Pal winner, Getaway Car for Bob Baffert. He's a 1X as well. So I just love it. I like little tidbits like that. People might think I'm crazy, but I like to consider myself to be a mad genius.
Yeah, I'm with you there, Ren. I like that. And I think that any little extra bit of sort of edge that you can gain, use it. And especially if it's going to produce some winners come handicapping.
That's what I'm trying to say. But like, you know what? To be honest with you, I didn't even realize, and I had him on the show the other day or last week. I didn't even realize you told me about East Avenue being related to Cody's Wish. I didn't even make the connection the other week. I feel like I dropped the ball there.
Never. I mean, look at how you keep on top of all the horses, all the contenders. And that's the thing. We can keep every eye on every horse, but when it comes to it, we're going to end up with such a smaller list of them. So we have to rechange and reshuffle all our following to try and find it all. So it's such a pool of horses that we've got to look at. We've got to slim it down. I've got a handicap this Sunday, French racing. Obviously, we've got brilliant Prix de Triomphe, amazing race. It's exciting. We've got the Jean-Luc Lagardère, we've got the Cataran, we've got the Prix de l'Abbé, but we've also got some like general handicaps, which are just kind of average-ish enough, average to high-rated handicappers. And I don't know them that well, but it's just kind of funneling your insight from where else, other jurisdictions you've been to try and work out how that can help you in somewhere else. And I think when I first came to America, when I was in LA for a good bit, and I hadn't been racing ever I went to Keeneland, went to Santa Anita. We all do it all our different ways, but we have slight similarities, and it's kind of channeling what you know and trying to find your own edge, because that's the only way I could do it. Was like, well, I don't do biofigures, and we don't have workouts that are available that we see the times. We just do it based on form, and that's it. So I had to just do it based on form, and that was the only way I knew. Whether it was working or not, it was my edge that I could do, because that was my strategy, and that's my thinking.
Well, I think it makes so much sense, because also it's really hard, because you're talking about, the figures and how they compare, but also, as you already went over, the courses are just so different anyway. So when you're looking at these different times, we can't compare times to times here in the States from track to track because of how one might play against another. But here, like you said, you've got these dips, you've got these, the inclines, all of that, which obviously work in tremendous stamina in these horses. They have so much left to finish with. But I just find it fascinating from the regard of, okay, how do these horses line up against each other now when we're going to the world championships and put them in against each other? I will say, not for the Breeders' Cup itself, but when horses have come from over in Europe before and raced over here, and just, any given race they might land, one of the things I would use as a strike against, and it worked out pretty well for me. I'm not saying this works out every time, everybody, but I would kind of, if there was a heavy favorite, just because of virtue of being a European coming into one of our turf races, if I thought I could beat that horse or find a chink in the armor, it would be that, like, okay, well, maybe this horse has only been going right-handed. And it would work out okay for me. It would work out okay for me, because it is a different thing to have to go that turn, especially now you're going to really use that left. And if they've only been going right, even though that they were, out there, as they're hacking out in the countryside and galloping and getting that aerobic fitness in a more balanced way than what we do here. But our horses, that left side is so strong, because that's all they do.
Yeah, no, totally. And fair enough. Like, I wouldn't bemoan someone if they said, look, that's never done that way around before, and that's never done this. Like, would that cut against it? But I think the big thing when it comes to Breeders' Cup World Championship is that you do have the best in the world. Well, we have a lot of horses that come over in the mid of the summer, and they try their hand at some of the big grade one races, and Charlie Appleby's doing it a lot. As is Aidan O'Brien, because of the prize money so good. The purses are brilliant, but it doesn't necessarily all work out. And I don't think, sometimes they think, oh, our grade 3 horse could run well in a grade 1 there, and slightly underestimate what you've got. And I think when it comes to the Breeders' Cup, the best thing that we have is that these are exceptionally good horses, and a difference of track configuration, stall setup, surfaces. They're able to cope with a different change because they are exceptional. And I've always been taught by my dad's always taught me everything I know, who's like a very, very good horse, can do it on anything. And that's why City of Troy can do it. He'll win despite maybe his pedigree not being absolutely proven to be a classic kind of horse, a dirt horse, and potentially not even of a speed-based classic, but because he's just so exceptional, he can do it. So that's why sometimes it just does it despite all the conditions being against them.
Oh my gosh, I'm getting, wow. Hold on a second. I don't even know what this says. So hopefully, so Gerald, he's got some stats here. Juvenile fillies on dirt favorite is 19 of 40. 47, yeah, 5. Okay. And second favorite 5 of 40. And third choice is 7 of 40. Just a little help to my horse racing family for free, but you only get one. Well, thank you, Gerald.
I'm gonna have to take that away and study that, Gerald, because I'm not quick enough to read the figures.
So thank you. Our dirt favorites is almost at 50%. Almost at 50%. The second favorite,
40,
I mean,
yeah,
that's
40, yeah.
pretty good. That's pretty good in terms of those numbers for the favorites, because we generally talk about how, and it's actually a bigger, because generally here in the States anyway, the favorite wins about a third of the time. So if you can take that shot against, right? But that's good to know. Let me see here, John Hamilton. I like the horse Momad. I'm pretty sure that's gelding. The gelding that broke his mane the first week in September. Terribly impressive race. Wonderful breeding. And actually, I think Mr. Hamilton introduced himself earlier. Sorry, everybody. I'm kind of behind in replies. Jessica, this is John Kennedy Hamilton. Do you believe in the bounce theory? Like what happened to Arthur's Ride? He's talking about our horse that won the Whitney. And then how he ran in the Jockey Club Gold Cup. Although in that case, I mean, the horse actually, I mean, he went out in the front and he just got tired.
For me, the bounce theory from like my understanding, and love that you called me Jessica.
Because this would not be a bounce theory, right?
Not many people call me Jessica John, by my parents, but I'll accept it today. Bounce theory, horses that have come off a long time off the track, they might win and they might suffer the bounce factor after, probably overperforming nearly, and then just struggling the next time. Yeah, it's always a concern. I feel like trainers are always worried about it, and it can be quite a good excuse. And horses might just feel like, might over race a little bit too after winning so well. It depends what the circumstances have been with that horse, and why they had been a long time off the track, or why they had come into what, the distance of time they had in between one race and the other as well. But it's definitely a factor, and definitely something you've got to consider.
Yeah. You know what? I'm just going to go back to saying this real quick. I'm so glad actually that you brought up about how it went over to the Cody's Wish thing, because it made me pull up the pedigree. And I wouldn't have known he was a 1X until I did my work much later when I did my handicapping. So now he's like, that East Avenue is like, I'm not even joking. The horse is on my radar, because when I said 4 or 5, like, I mean, I'm talking about essential quality, Forte, Game Winner, Corniche. They're all 1X. And now I'm like, okay, we've got a viable horse who looks like
we'll be supporting East Avenue. I'm excited to see that horse.
Oh, the story continues. I asked him also. I mean, the Dorman family, Cody's parents and sister, they still go and visit the horse, and I think that's so wonderful.
So lovely.
I'm going back and making sure I didn't miss. I'm sorry, I don't want people to think we have almost 800 people watching us live right now, so I just want to make sure. Wow. I know. We're like in our own little bubble, and we think we're having our own little conversation. But as far as racing streams go, that's a lot. I'm not gonna. I mean, that's a lot of viewership. But let's see here. Jacob Danny said Wathnon Racing making big moves.
And one thing I didn't mention is that they signed up James Doyle as their first jockey, and that's a big. I mean, I know there would have been a big price contract, and I'm sure he's making a lot of money out of it as well. But this happens a lot more in our part of the world than it does with you. Contracts with jockeys and trainers, and jockeys and connections and retainers. Mm-hmm. But James Doyle was second jockey to William Buick for Godolphin. I'll never forget when he won on Rebels Romance in the Breeders' Cup Turf. Like, he has had some fabulous wins. Yeah, he's been everywhere, all over the world, and he really wanted to be number one somewhere. And Wathnon has given him the opportunity. I'd love to see the figures, and I'm sure that the members of Wathnon Racing, they might tell us, but they have put a lot of money into it. I wouldn't say that they've won all the races they want to be competitive in, but I think that this is just the beginning. Rome wasn't built in a day. A lot of people want to be Coolmore and Godolphin instantly, and it doesn't work like that. And we've seen a lot of connections come and go quite quickly as well, who have failed. So I hope that Wathnon Racing are given the guidance, and I'm sure they will do. Richard Brown from this side of the pond is their racing manager here. He's a very smart guy. He bought Desert Crown a couple of years ago, the Derby winner. And I think they've got the right people. But sometimes you can't just buy everything and get the success. So it could be a slow process.
Oh, Gerald was kidding, by the way. Just kidding. Juvenile Phillies favorites last 10 years, 2 for 10. You know what? I thought, yeah, thanks, Gerald. I was like, I don't know. I'm just rolling with it right now. I was like, wait a second. Because, yeah, I mean, last year, right, it was Tamra. And Tamra, she ran great. And then she had to back out. And thanks, Gerald. I'm just putting things up as I'm going here. So I gotta prove with y'all better. And any case, so you're one of the things you just mentioned. So you're going to be filming with Anna James, with Sophie Doyle.
Yeah.
Or sorry, with
Holly Doyle. Yeah.
We have Sophie. So
you got Sophie, James's sister. No, so Anna and I were together to go see City of Troy at the Southwell workout.
Yeah.
We did a little piece there. We actually got to chat to City of Troy's groom and his exercise rider, just to get a little bit more insight into what City of Troy is like, outside of a racetrack situation, what he's like at home, his personality, really get inside, really get a real profile for the horse. And then tomorrow I'll be presenting at Kempton Park, which is one of our all-weather racetracks that we have here in the UK, which, as I said, Symbol of Strength had won there. I'm there for a race meeting, and beforehand I'll be with Holly to chat about her Breeders' Cup plans, but hopefully more we'll just discuss about what it's been like winning 2 winning your ends this year, because it's been a great story, really great, and she deserves the Group 1 successes.
Correct me if anybody out there knows, correct me if I'm wrong. I think, okay, I'm just trying to think of females who've won Breeders' Cup races. Obviously Julie Crone.
Mm-hmm.
I think Rosie Napravnik has not only won, but I think she was pregnant during one of those wins.
Oh, wow.
And I think she broke the news in the winning interview. Somebody tell me if I'm right on that. Somebody tell me.
I don't know. I feel like that's something that we would.
I have this memory like this imprinted, like, what? Picture in my mind of Lafitte Pincay Jr. as interviewing her, saying that.
So Rosie Napravnik became the second woman jockey to win a Breeders' Cup, winning the Juvenile in 2012 on Shanghai Bobby and the Distaff in 2014 on Tappable. Doesn't say about pregnancy though.
I feel like she was pregnant. Oh, maybe I'm okay. Right here, Rosie Napravnik made history by becoming the first female jockey to win the $2 million Breeders' Cup Distaff Friday. Then this is before we had the current format. Then she dropped the real bombshell by revealing she was 7 weeks pregnant and would retire after racing again on Saturday. That's crazy.
Oh, what a way to go. Fair play to her. That's a brilliant way to announce your retirement, isn't it?
I would tell my kid when I came out, you're already a champion, man. You were with me.
Yeah, you were there guiding me through. That's so cool.
That's amazing. Yes, that's so cool. That was, I believe, on Untappable. That's crazy. That's crazy. Crazy town. When I was pregnant, I was sitting on the couch.
I was going to say, like, she was early on, but it's tricky to do the weight when you've got another human inside you. Like, how is that?
I know, right? Well, maybe with the morning sickness, she was.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. Wow. So I'm sorry. Back to the racing part of it. Because I've now kept you almost the 2 hours, and we now have so we have 797 people watching live. Thank you so much, y'all. Let me go back to where I had my notes so we can actually talk about anybody that I had missed that I had wanted to talk about when we were rushing through. And I absolutely do. So let's go ahead and we're going to take it back to where is it? The Juvenile Turf. Now, one of the replays I did not show wasn't just because we were in the time crunch, but also because as far as where he's not coming, and I'm talking about the KPMG Champions Juvenile winner, Green Impact.
Yeah, Green Impact, a son of Whitman Bassett, who won, as you said, at Leopardstown, did it really well. But I interviewed the connections afterwards. So it was owned and bred by Mark Chan and Jamie McCalmont, who was the racing manager. I had a great chat with him. He was like, we won't be going. he's going to be put away for the year, and they're going to campaign him like a Derby horse for next year. So they are wrapping him up in cotton wool, and he's done everything they need to. But yeah, exciting horse going forward for Jessica Harrington. And would say, I mean, look, Jessica Harrington was one of the trainers that didn't have the best time. Give Me the Beat Boys with Scratch late on last year.
Yeah.
That was difficult. That wasn't great.
Yes.
But I like to hope that if they have the right horses, they're still going to come back. But hopefully, that didn't put them off it or anything. But
she had Albina, correct? Did she have Albina a couple of years ago?
Albina, and Jessica Harrington's got some great horses. They love to travel them as well. But that wasn't the reason if anyone thought, oh well, they didn't have a great time last year. But they did say to me that he'll be a Derby contender, they hope, from next year on.
Okay, well, another horse that I think there's some buzz about for next year is a 3-year-old, but I'm hoping we might see here would be the Lion in Winter, the Acomb winner. What do you think? Any chance?
So this is a horse that looking at him physically, looking at his pedigree, you would think, I don't think he should be doing this as a 2-year-old. He's by Sea the Stars out of a Lope de Vega mare. His family are all middle distance sorts. He won a Group 3. This is the race in shot, beating Wimbledon Hawkeye, who has gone and franked the form. He's gone and won since. The Wacko Kid,
the Royal Lodge, right?
The Wacko Kid in behind has won since as well. The form is very, very good, and you've got to love the performance. It was. He showed his, I feel like, the stamina that he's really going to thrive over in the years to come. He's already, I think he's one of the favorites for the Guineas for next year. But he looks like a Derby horse. He's by a Derby winner. But he's got a Futurity Trophy Stakes entry, which is a Group 1 in the 26th of October. So I think it's a bit tight. But fun fact for you, Sea the Stars as the sire has not had a Group 1 winning juvenile, which is surprising because obviously, he is what he is, but they've all been better as they got older. Maybe this is the horse that's going to buck that trend. He's favorite to do so anyway. He's also in the Dewhurst Stakes, which is on the 12th of October.
Yeah, because what I had read at the time was that he had missed the Goffs Million due to a bruised foot. And then they had the Dewhurst on October 12th on the radar. Yeah. And which is in, as I said, 12 days time. That's over 7. He's a short price for both of them. Looking at the runners that they're off is right now, he's got Ancient Truth. Wherever he goes, he's going to be hard to beat. He's very much considered as like the best 2-year-old that Aidan O'Brien has from a Colts perspective. When you mentioned Wimbledon Hawkeye, who again went on to win the Royal Lodge, that's a son of Kamiko, and Kamiko is also the sire of New Century, which I thought that was so cool because that was his first Grade 1 win as a sire, and to have Oisin aboard, who has that close connection with that horse. Anyway, I thought that was so cool for, again, New Century in the summer. And also for us here in the States, it's cool because he's a son of Kitten's Joy. And we've seen, this last crop of Kitten's Joy go through the ring this year. And it's just one of those things. It's fun to see that line continue. But do you think Wimbledon Hawkeye is a horse that we might see come over here at all, or?
He did mention it, the trainer, James Owen, who extraordinarily has only started training flat horses earlier this year. He's actually got his background in Arabian breds, national hunt horses. The owners, the Gredley family that own Wimbledon Hawkeye, have given him, a lot of backing. And Wimbledon Hawkeye has been the one that's shown that. He was so overexcited in the winner's circle at Newmarket, and he was coming up with all kind of ideas. He was like, they're all open. Everything is open. I think he said in the past, now I think this is what he said, that, he's a real 2-year-old, so they want to kind of make the most of him now. But I think that they'd also like to work backwards from good targets next year. But as I say, James Owen isn't used to having horses of this nature. So I think that maybe they'll just go for it. So he's a great advertisement for the sire, Kamiko. And as you say, Kamiko is son of Kitten's Joy, for Sheikh Fahad Qatar Racing, who obviously raced Roaring Lion. Also a son of Kitten's Joy, sadly gone too soon.
I know.
And the one crop he had done extraordinary things. So they're hoping that Kamiko can fill the void. He wasn't, I don't personally believe, as good a racehorse as Roaring Lion, but he did win the Guineas in record time. And he's a first season sire, doing really well. And New Century was a brilliant decision to bring him over to Woodbine. Loved that for them. Did it brilliantly, and has got now the form on the kind of track that you want to be on.
I've got the replay here now. Now we can show it.
Yeah. Let's see. Look, it was awesome. It was cool. I thought that he was going to be facing a big challenge with Al Qudra, and I think the betting suggested that as well. There wasn't a huge amount between them. New Century came out of 7, Al Qudra out of 2, out of 6 was that, I think. But they were pretty. It got kind of tight. I think it was a bit messy in the closing stages.
There was a little bit of bumping going on, but Oisin kind of said that was almost. And again, everybody, you can go to the Breeders' Cup prior live streams, and you can see these interviews. But yeah, Oisin, he was talking about how it was actually in a way like a blessing in disguise, because kind of gets the horse back in stride to just go. And I honorable mention, if John is still watching, to the 2 Dream On here, as well as the 14 Winterberry, who somebody might have named. And then again, Winterberry, she was taking her chance here against the boys, and she ran well. I mean, she was right there. And then once we come off the turn, at that point she was like, okay. But Dream On, the 2 horse, you see both DJ runners there in the maroon and the diamond checks, both hanging behind Groot at 45-1. And now here on the outside you see the Godolphin Silks of Al Qudra, and then to his outside with the Shadow Roll, Oisin, and New Century.
Yeah. And look, this is when he gets kicking. This was, as you say, a mile, fast, tough ground. He had won over a mile in a 3-runner race at Salisbury the time before. And when I can say, right-handed, undulating, a completely different kind of track. So the fact that New Century has traveled over to Woodbine, which isn't easy anymore. Like I feel like I heard, I don't know if it's for the humans or horses, but for some reason getting to Woodbine is harder than getting to the States. But anyway, New Century was very much, he was learning a lot from that race, I felt. Yeah. And I think that Oisin will probably feel like it's kind of made a man of him a bit. Yeah. I wonder, I don't know, but I wonder if he stayed over your side of, because I can't imagine he's come back.
If I remember, you know what? I feel somebody, gosh, I've talked to so many different people now, and I cannot remember who told me who's going where and what. So never mind. I'm not going to speak out of turn because I cannot remember 100%. I don't know. But what I do remember is Andrew Balding's assistant in the post-race interview had mentioned that she got on him, in the pre-warm-ups, and said he just skipped over that track. Which that was very.
I'm not surprised. As we know, Kamiko loved that surface. He was a horse that had a lot of speed, and look, he wouldn't be my standout 2-year-old, but I think that maybe he's work in progress. And as I said, that made a man of him. And Al Qudra has got good form lines, and
he beat him in the Pat Edery at Ascot.
Yeah, he did. So he's reversed that form.
And in the debut. But that was different.
Wouldn't be surprised if Charlie Appleby gets his horses there as well. Look, every Breeders' Cup, and I don't think I've mentioned enough Charlie Appleby, every Breeders' Cup, he will pull something out. Sometimes more or less more on the older horses than he does on the 2-year-olds, but you wouldn't want to put it past him that he gets them absolutely primed for a month's time.
Yeah, no, that was it between Victoria Road and Silver Knot a couple years ago at Keeneland.
Oh, yeah, battled. Cornwall
That
versus Godolphin.
that was exciting. And Silver Knot's done well over here since.
Yeah. Mm.
And so that's really interesting. Now, here's a horse I do not know if you've had an opportunity to take a look at, but he's a son of 10 sovereigns and out of Zizwa by Smart Strike. And this is Zulu Kingdom winning the Pilgrim Stakes on September 28th at Belmont at the Big A, trained by Chad Brown. So you can't forget him either. Owned by Madaket Stables, Dub, Strauss, and Caruso. We've got Joel Rosario aboard. Let's take a look at the Pilgrim Stakes. A win and you're in for the Breeders' Cup Juvenile Turf. And here we go. And just go ahead. And this horse is now 3 for 3, so undefeated. And let's see here. He is, yeah. So he's going to go ahead and hang back a couple lengths off the pace here. You see him, the 4 in the yellow silks with the pink cap.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, this was the day where there had been a lot of rain. The official listing of the course was yielding. The Pilgrim, I should also mention, mile and a 16th. So, and this is a horse that he actually imported. He ran, I don't know the form lines of some of the other horses he faced, but he originally debuted at St. Cloud in the Prix-Chapeau Rouge.
Yeah, he was obviously bought privately out of there. He was with Andre Fabre, and
yes,
I would imagine, considering that was on very soft ground, and there are so many clever people out there who'd be working on times to see how he had done in Saint Cloud, to see if he would be, you know, benefiting by better ground or whatever, based coming over to America. But he does have that Smart Strike influence in his pedigree, so a good pickup for a Chad Brown.
Oh, yeah. And you see there was a little bit of a checking situation. The horse threw his head, sort of just buried there on the rail in between horses. It looks like it was actively raining during the race. And again, the Miss Grillo itself was rescheduled. But here he goes. Now he's got his running room, changes his lead. And it looks like from here, it's up against Klarovich horse had a check there. Early adopter. But yeah, I mean, he just goes. Now, again, he debuted going the 7 furlongs on soft ground, won that by 3.5 lengths. The 2 races he's had here in the States, he won the With Anticipation in the first start for the barn. And then again, that also being a mile and the 16th, that was on firm ground at Saratoga. And then we had the yielding. So it looks to me like this is a horse. It doesn't really matter necessarily that we're going to be cutting back to a mile and getting on firm ground for the Breeders' Cup. Most likely. I would highly doubt that it's going to be a rainy situation there at Del Mar.
Yeah, I like to hope so. I'm hoping a little bit of warmth. It's a nice little holiday for me in a way.
No, for sure. I mean, so obviously this horse has been running over here, but 10 Sovereigns was a very nice horse over there. So, and is this his first crop, or is this? I think it's his first crop.
No. 10 Sovereigns has been around for a little bit now.
Oh, has he? Okay.
I would say that this is his second crop.
Okay.
He's got some good horses without anything brilliant, but you know, he's a son of No Never. Yeah. That's a competitive market out there for sons of No Nay Never.
That's for sure.
I wouldn't say he's being right at the top, but he probably could do with a really good one, a really good grade 1.
Well, that's exciting if this horse should do that. I mean, Chad Brown obviously knows how to win on the big stage. I still laugh about it when he won the juvenile turf with Structor a few years ago. And the horse, I forget what he went off, but he went off at like not a Chad Brown price, that's for sure. And I remember having done the pre-interview there with him, with the horse. I told him then, I said, "Oh, I'm surprised by your morning line. You think your odds are going to come down?" And he was very much like, "Oh, well, you've got all these other people, you know, it's okay." And so then the horse pulled it out. So I thought that was pretty Interesting. So, okay, I think we might have gone through everybody, unless there was a horse. You just are like, oh my gosh, if I don't put this on people's radars, I will kick myself.
No, I would just remind what I said at the beginning. I was really keen while Matt was there to bring up Rashabar. I really like that
Yeah.
horse. I think he's got a lot of quality about him. Brian Meehan, the trainer, has been to the Breeders' Cup before, knows what kind of horse. He's also the trainer of JRB, the horse that we bred. So I'm hoping that he's going to come with him too. He said to me when I last saw him that he's been keeping the horse, waiting with him. He wouldn't want the slower ground that we have right now. So yeah, he's said in the past that like he's hoping that if all things go well, he'll be there. But yeah, you'll remember Brian had winners of the Breeders' Cup like Red Rocks, and he's a guy that's had a lot of success when he's traveled horses internationally. So I think he's got the experience to know which ones will be able to just really flourish if he does take his chances there.
Oh, I know a horse. I'm sorry, because I actually do have the replay here for you if you want it. Scorthy Champ. You gave me Scorthy Champ.
Yeah, I did. Yes. Yeah, Scorthy Champ kind of surprised me in the national because definitely show it. Like he's a horse that Joseph O'Brien trains. He you can see with a big white face and the yellow. Yeah, the yellow silks there. He
reminds me of Shackelford.
Yeah, you would spot him from a mile away, but he beat a horse, Henri Matisse, this day, who came into it as a short price favorite. Before that, he was viewed as Aidan O'Brien's like one of his best colts at this distance, and I don't think that there was a real like reason. I mean, Henri Matisse. The comments afterwards from Ryan Moores that he ran around and hung both ways. So have a look at the navy colors and see what you think. Whereas Scorthy Champ in the yellow and purple seemed to be very straightforward and controlled all the way around. But yeah, potentially he's won a national stakes. Joseph O'Brien says he is more of a miler. So the Prix Lagardère or the Breeders' Cup are options. The Prix Lagardère is this weekend. And actually that was one thing that I wanted to mention with this weekend coming up, that the Prix Jean-Luc Lagardère at Longchamp on the weekend is a race that's been a really good stepping stone. Unquestionable was second in it last year to Rosalian. Rosalian had gone on to be one of the best milers this year.
Yes.
So I remember thinking Unquestionable ran a brilliant race because I think that was one of the best 2-year-old races we had last year. I think that this kind of horse running over a 7 furlong or a mile, they're only getting better as the season continues. So if they run really well in the Jean-Luc Lagardère, then their horse, and then they go on to the Breeders' Cup, that's a form line that I like to see. So Henri Matisse is likely to be in there. Scorthy Champ potentially as well. Camille Pissarro for Aidan O'Brien too. So make sure you watch it on Sunday, and hopefully you'll see me as well. I'll be on air. So yeah, we'll be there. I'll be there noting it down and making sure that I've said keep an eye on that horse because he might be going for Breeders' Cup next.
Well, that is an official win, and you're in for the Breeders' Cup juvenile turf, and it's fun because it's nice to have the reference of the win and you're in horses, but we do have other really important races like the National, where we can find talent that might not, even though, because we're over here in the States, maybe he's not necessarily on the radar when we're just going through the list of who's won berth into our races. That being said, so that he's trained by Joseph O'Brien, like you already mentioned. So that's pretty cool. I mean, it's so funny. I took a funny picture with Joseph because my personality, I was like this. He's so gentlemanly.
What was he like?
I'm like, he's just gentleman. He's just a gentleman. And I was just like, it was Dan Torgman, because he knows, here's the thing. He knows that I am me and that I don't get intimidated by talking to people or introducing myself to somebody, whatnot, because I really do. And, when we were joking about the guests and the level at which I think people, rank, I think everybody ranks the same. We're all created equal. So I don't get intimidated dominated that way. There's been very few instances of that. There's been maybe 2 ever. And like one of them is Dwayne Lucas, but it's the coach. And he could not have been nicer. He could not have been nicer. He could not have been nicer.
Please, Ren, please go and try and get a picture or a smile or an interview with Ryan Moore. I beg of you. I'm fascinated to see how he reacts. He'll probably be charming, but he's not easy.
Do you know, I have a friend, there's a friend of mine. She, in the racing circles, I don't, I can't claim to like know what she does day to day, but one of the things she likes to do at the races, if Brian Moore is like, over here riding at these big events, like she gets a just picture with him in the background where she's just smiling really big and he's just there. And it's just become this funny thing, which, she's not a stalker. She's just, it's funny because I know there's that reputation, right? That
it's just, it's hard to sometimes get him really talking.
To be loquacious.
Yeah, but actually at Southall after the City of Troy workout, he was signing autographs and taking pictures. Yeah. He's really good with kids. So if you bring your daughter, that might help.
I'm 5'3". I kind of look like a kid on some occasions. Maybe that's why some people have been nice to me. But okay, so I also have to, while I've got you before I let you go, one of the things I love is your fashion. I'm not even joking. You know this. I private messaged you before and been like, oh my gosh, I didn't know about this designer before. I'm all over it now.
Yeah, you wore self-portrait, didn't you?
Yes,
you did.
yes, to the Derby. It was fun. But although it is hilarious because I wanted to look really form-fitted. So it was one of those things where like, because this is going to be TMI, everybody. But some parts are bigger than other parts. So like I would be one size if not for something happening, So I was like, I don't know if I should go with this part or if I should go with the waist. And I decided to ultimately go with the waist and get something smaller. Can I tell you, it looked great once, standing up, but sitting down, the way to Churchill Downs is the drive's about an hour and 20 minutes from here. I'm not even joking. I'm laid back in the car. Yeah. I had to put the seat back while Matt drove because I didn't want to pop a stitch.
Oh, see, when that happens, what I do is I go in my sweats in the car and you change when you arrive.
I did not trust that we would get there necessarily on time because as you can imagine, and as you've likely seen, if you were you here for the Breeders' Cup at Churchill?
No,
okay. Not. It's a whole process in the media, and you go park at staff parking, and then you take a bus over, and all which is great. It's great that they shuttle you over, but you take the shuttle over, and then all this stuff. So I just want to be like ready to roll out of the car, essentially. But it was funny. I was hosting these Q&A sessions, and they had a chair for me. I told the audience straight up, I was like, I'm not sitting down. But tell us, like, how do you plan, for these big events, and especially when you have to pack?
Oh, it's not easy for the Breeders' Cup. Last year, I rent a lot of my outfits. We have rental sites, and you can find the brands you like.
Runway.
Yeah, we've got something called Her and By Rotation, and I know what looks nice to me, what's fit me in the past. So I know the brand and I know the size. So I just find different colors. So that's why I do quite a lot of repetition with the brands. But when it comes to Breeders' Cup, I'm actually going to be flying over on the Monday, and then we're going from my boyfriend, who's a trainer. He's never been to the Breeders'. Well, sorry, he has been to the Breeders' Cup. He came out with the horse Cardem to Keeneland, really? And the horse didn't run. He didn't make the cut. Oh, but no. So he went to that, but he's coming out, and we are then going on holiday afterwards on our way back to England. So I'm away for 2 and a bit weeks. So I can't really rent something for that amount of time. So I'm going to have to find something else. I'll work it out. But it's the hats I want to bring with me. And I've got no other choice. I'm going to have to take them. They're going to have to come in the hand luggage with me. So that is dedication to make sure that I look the best I can do. but like, I don't know. I'm someone that's always like, we talked about it earlier. You're like, you've got to have a lot of confidence. You've got to back yourself in this game. And at the end of the day, we are females kind of still in a slightly mannish world, but I think that there's more of us now. But I thrive on confidence. And I think if you look good, you feel good, you can be good. And I always say that. So if I'm wearing a cute outfit and I feel great, then I don't have to worry about it. All I need to focus on is my horses. So wearing a nice outfit helps me every now and again, but there is a bit of planning, and I've got a nice one for the Prix de l'Arc de Triomphe this Sunday, because I think that the Parisians do it really well, and you want to feel part of it. But really, I'm just trying to keep my game high with all the everyone is on FanDuel as well. Everyone always looks great, so I want to make sure that I'm in the same as everyone else. So
I know, it's fun. But although I'll say, you guys, you should have booked in is, because I highly recommend it. I mentioned this to you before last year. I'll say it again, maybe for next year. So you go to the Breeders' Cup, and then you come back through Lexington, and you stay for the big sales here.
Yeah,
because that's where you're going to see some of the horses who even run in the Breeders' Cup going to those sales. And
I know. And we've got a while until we're back over to that when I don't know, we're Del Mar again next year. I don't know where we'll be the year after. I don't know when we might be back in.
I'm kind of hoping, hey, West Coast is great. I'm kind of hoping we get to pull it back to the East Coast after that, because it makes my life a little easier in terms of organization.
I can imagine. And I think if that happens, then I'll be there. But
you stay on. You just stay on.
I know. I'd stay on for a long time if I can.
You mentioned Kadam. Isn't that horse a half to somebody big, really famous too?
Kadam is well known because he has won 2 Diamond Jubilee Stakes at Royal Ascot the last 2 years running at a massive price. But I don't know off the top of my head. I'll have to look him up.
Maybe I'm thinking of somebody else, but I feel like when we were watching Royal Ascot this past summer,
I'm looking at his pedigree. Nothing top of my head.
Maybe it's a horse that ran second to him. Who was the runner? Do you remember who the runner-up was by chance? And I know I just put you on the spot, so if you don't remember, don't worry about it. You've already. I'm so impressed already by the top of your head knowledge. It's nuts.
I know that he. I don't know. All I could tell you off the top of my head is that he's won 2 of the big 6 furlong, and they've changed the name so many times. Last year it was the Queen Elizabeth, the Jubilee Stakes, and now it's the as I say, Queen Elizabeth II Jubilee Stakes at Ascot, and he's won it twice in a row. Even though he runs badly everywhere else, but he actually did run second to Coburn in Kentucky Downs. Whenever it was last month. So he actually ran a massive race. That really surprised me. That was 7th of September, because his form in the UK isn't great. So I was surprised to see how well he finished. And I know that Coburn is your best sprinter. I don't know if that was a boost to Coburn that he won that, and you thought, oh, he's looking great, because Kadam would be well held by some of our best tough sprinters.
Yeah, well, that's the other thing that you just mentioned Coburn. That horse is a son of Not This Time, and you mentioned Shareholder before, also a son of Not This Time. It's really remarkable. I don't know how closely you guys have pay attention to our stallions necessarily, but Not This Time. If you guys all remember, he ran second in our Breeders' Cup Juvenile a couple of years ago, the year that Classic Empire won. And Not This Time might have very well won himself had he not had there's something happened at the gate. Can't remember exactly off the top of my head, but he had a bad start. And the fact that he's just gone on to be this really potent sire. I mean, it's also nice from the perspective that he's still representing the Giants Causeway line, because how important that horse was globally. So he's already represented.
He's the son of Giants Causeway. I remember looking him up when I was having a real close look at Shareholder, and I was like, well, this is huge. This horse is doing super well. But yeah, I'm not overly surprised either.
No. And it's like any type. You get Cogburn, you get Next. I don't know if you've seen Next is this really cool horse that we have who actually might. I think there's been debate whether he might go Breeders' Cup Classic or he might go in the turf. So that's interesting. And he's just this horse. He's kind of been beating up on lesser competition in these marathon races over here, but he's become a huge fan favorite because when he's going these distances, he's still going at a freaking good clip. And he's this beautiful gray. So there you have a dirt marathon horse. And then you got Cogburn, this turf sprinter. We saw what Shareholder has done. He's just not this time is just proven so versatile. So in any case, I hope you all can really go back and digest a lot of this. There's a lot of information for you. But we did go over all 5 of the Breeders' Cup juvenile races for Future Stars Friday, horses that maybe were already on your radar. And thanks to Jess, maybe some horses who were not. We do, as you already mentioned, have the Lagardère coming up for winning your because we were just recently talking about the Breeders' Cup Juvenile Turf. And there's also going to be the Castle and Key Bourbon on Sunday at Keeneland. And just to reiterate, one of the other races on that card, it's not an official win in your in, but you're going to want to pay attention to it. I'm talking about the Indian Summer Stakes. Those are horses that might end up in the juvenile turf sprint. So a lot to digest. And I'm still going back. I'm still going back to your East Avenue angle because again, it's my 1X. It's freaking my 1X. Like people know, they watch the show, they know I'm obsessed with it. They do. I mean, put it to you this way. Folklore, okay, Forte, Essential Quality, and Folklore are all on the same catalog page if you look. And Folklore won the Breeders' Cup Juvenile Fillies. So there you have 3 juvenile champions right there on one page. And then, of course, also on the page is Contrail, who won the Japanese Triple Crown. So it's a stacked page. I love it. And so, thank you for bringing that up.
Oh, well, every day is a school day. I mean, I learned way more than anything else today. Like I am feeling pumped and kind of a little bit more confident about what I know now, especially from the dirt horse perspective, because I come in with all my turf knowledge, but I still got plenty to learn. So I'm hoping that we can all share and we can all utilize each other's insights.
Well, I'm not just saying this. Everybody, if you don't follow Jess already, do it, please, because obviously you could hear just from this broadcast alone that you are an encyclopedia of knowledge. I sit here in awe as you're just rattling off not only the names of the horses, the races they won, their connections. I can barely remember my own name sometimes. So I just, am so impressed by the preparation you put in to everything you do, everything I've seen you do. And that's obviously a reason why you won an award for the work you put forth for this industry. So thank you so much, because it is people like you that help convey the love, the passion, and the knowledge you need to really get involved with this sport.
Oh, well, thank you. And likewise, Ren, learn so much from you. And I'm hoping that when we get to 1 month's time, we can watch the likes of Eastern Avenue together. I think that'd be kind of cool. We can watch the likes of... Yeah. we can watch the likes of...
I can clip it off. I can clip it off.
That will be one for that'll be one for the memories. But yeah, thank you for having me. And it is always such an honor and a joy to follow what you create every day you're doing for us, and helping this racing family, because that's what we are. And I must say, anyone who's still watching, who's still logged in, I'll be over. I'll be at the work mornings. Oh yeah. Oh, that's true. Oh yeah. I do have a new podcast, which I really hope at some stage I can get you on, because you'll be the ultimate. Especially, I have got in the pipeline a podcast dedicated to City of Troy, and the question is, bred for a Breeders' Cup Classic, yes or not? Yes or no? The podcast is called Bred for It, and it's a podcast dedicated to the thoroughbred bloodstock industry. Obviously, I'm here in the UK, so it's mainly the European insight that I can give, but hopefully it's educating those that like their racing but need a bit more of an understanding about breeding and bloodstock, because it can be a little bit overwhelming, and it's not designed purely for those in the know. It's designed for those that want to learn more, because as I said earlier on, every day is a school day, and I'm learning off breeders, I'm learning off those that foal, I'm learning off auctioneers, and those who are part of sale companies, and those that are with stallions and stud duty men, everything, because everything is going to help us when we are at the racetrack and trying to be a part of this great game.
Oh my gosh. And when does the first episode go out, and where can they watch
So
it?
the first episode went out last Monday.
Oh,
so
well, I have to
I've got episode 1 is out. That's called Breeding in the Impossible. And I spoke with Stuart McPhee, who's the breeder of Metropolitan, who won the French 2000 Guineas earlier this year. And it's an amazing story because he bought the dam Alianza on an online sale for €800 back in 2019. And she has gone on and produced a classic winner. And he talks to me about his methodologies and his passion, and why following what he believed in turned into what he's created, which is a classic winner. And he actually gave me an exclusive that he'll be selling her at the end of the year. So I said to him, that probably would be your biggest achievement to date, turning an €800 purchase into something quite extraordinary. So he's very interesting. And then I've got a great podcast coming up next with a guy that talks to me about data and using a biomechanics model that he has produced to try and score yearlings and other racing age thoroughbreds to try and work out the edge that they might have over others when you're coming to buy them at the sales. And he's talking about is basically, I think I might call the episode something like the robots are coming, because it's all about machines and how I was like, because a lot of people are a little bit scared about data and about AI and all those kind of things, but at the end of the day, if it's going to give you an edge over something else, it's very important to utilize it in the right way. So he's super interesting. And as I said, I'm going to focus on City of Troy. But yeah, every other week, podcast coming out on Apple Podcasts and Spotify. So you can hear me there, as well as FanDuel most weekends at the moment.
I know. And sometimes, maybe not every time, but sometimes paired up with Matt Carothers. And
I know.
I really enjoy everything you do. So everybody be sure you check out Bred for It, the new podcast brought to you by Jess Stafford. And I'm looking forward to it. What you just mentioned with the biomechanics, it's interesting. I would assume that you can do stride efficiency, rate that.
All that stride data, but he basically takes the physical of the horse just walking, because that's how we look at horses and analyze them when they're at the sales, and he has like a graph of lines of how horses are moving and the locomotions and the way that they're using their their knee up until every sort of aspect of a horse is measured, and it's all put into a data driven machine. I don't know.
I'm sorry. No, I'm keeping you. I'm so fast. I'm sorry. I keep you there. One question. Can it sort of get a sense of can you set the parameters essentially to saying this is what the ideal is for a turf horse, turf sprinter, or turf miler, or whatever? Can you put in parameters that give it a more of a specificity of whether it's a turf horse, a dirt horse, a sprinter, a distance horse?
Yeah. And I think that's what all of the numbers are spitting out, essentially, depending on what you want to use it for. Do you want to use it to see how this horse rates based on its pedigree and its physical? Does it rate highly? Does it move in the sense that it's going to turn into a better horse next year? That's one way of using it. If you want to use it to see what this horse might be a benefit as distance-wise, tracks-wise, that's another way of using it. It's a model that can be utilized in loads of different ways. He also has a model that can show you how, what horses should be running in next based on what they did last time. Like there's loads of ways of using it, but I talk about using it to buy horses in this sense.
Well, that's awesome. I'm gonna have to go listen to that.
Yeah.
So, Jess, thank you so much. I know I kept you long. I will say this: after the Breeders' Cup is over, I generally do one of these follow-up shows where we go back and we look at the races And so I'll have to have you and Matt on together, and we'll like analyze
Yeah.
how the winners actually did in the races.
We'll have,
give
we'll
us
have
a
to
report.
hold me to the horses, and I will I'll have to either name or shame them, or we'll have a little victory party.
All right, sounds good. Go East Avenue. Anyway.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you
Exactly.
so much, everybody. And Jess, your time, it's been so valuable. I really appreciate it. I hope you all enjoyed this. We have close to 900 people watching right now. We appreciate the support. This has been your Future Stars forecast on a 2-year-old Tuesday. I will talk to you again next week.